is a hot and humid 91-degree day here at Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati, and most of you will see the Reds play the Dodgers with Fernando Valenzuela going against Tim Burtzis, while some of you will be watching the Red Sox and the Twins from Fenway in Boston. Last night, the Twins made it 4 straight wins with a 10-0 walloping of the slumping Red Sox. But dwarfing the activities on baseball fields throughout the country is the ongoing Pete Rose gambling investigation. That is why we are here in Cincinnati. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Marv Albert. Welcome to the pregame show. And today we have put aside our usual program format to focus on this vigil that has engulfed the world of baseball and all of sports. It was back in April when the shocking news broke. The office of the baseball commissioner announced an investigation into reports that Reds manager Pete Rose was betting on baseball and possibly betting on his own team. Legal maneuvering finally came to a head this past week when attorneys for Rose went to court attempting to block Monday's scheduled hearing between Rose and Commissioner Bart Giamatti to discuss the gambling charges, a hearing that could lead to a 1-year suspension or banishment from the game. Rose had been silent regarding the accusations until this past Monday.
Well, it feels good to finally be able to look at the camera and say that I never bet on the Cincinnati Reds and I never bet on baseball, and I just want the opportunity to tell someone that's going to be impartial and listen.
I stated that the accumulated testimony of witnesses together with documentary evidence and telephone records reveal extensive betting activity by Pete Rose in connection with professional baseball, and in particular the Cincinnati Reds games during the 1985, 86, 87 baseball seasons.
Yesterday in county court here in Cincinnati, Judge Norbert Nadel, after hearing closing arguments, delayed until noon tomorrow his decision on whether Rose has to appear before Giamatti on Monday.
I honestly believe that I have been waiting to have a hearing. I am not reaching judgments in the absence of a fair hearing. I have not felt adversarial towards anybody, personally or professionally. And I can tell you honestly, I don't feel that way to this day.
Pete Rose feels Bart Giamatti has prejudged the case, thus he cannot get a fair hearing. Bob Jamieson of NBC News has been covering the story since last March, reporting on the proceedings for NBC's Nightly News. Bob, Judge Nadel will render a decision tomorrow at noontime. How do you think he will handle it?
Marv, this is a guy who faces a very, very difficult decision. On the one hand, you have the court's historic refusal to interfere with the commissioner's authority. On the other, you have a serious and continuing problem for Commissioner Giamatti because of the letter that he wrote to a federal judge about to sentence drug trafficker Ron Peters, who was Rose's chief accuser, endorsing Peters' honesty. Then there is one additional thing. Judge Nadel is an elected official in a town that idolizes Pete Rose, and he's got to face the voters again next year.
All right, the decision is made. Then what happens?
Well, if it goes against baseball tomorrow, then they obviously appeal. It would be difficult for them to appeal this decision in Ohio courts. They would probably go to federal court, and there would be no hearing on Monday. If Pete Rose loses, that's something else again. It would be equally difficult for him to appeal the decision, but it will be equally difficult for him to appear before the hearing, and so something else may happen entirely.
Bob, the past few days here in Cincinnati, the rumors have been going full blast. Why don't you throw some of that speculation at us?
Marv, as somebody once said, rumors here are 10 cents a ton. There is one rumor that has Rose resigning tomorrow night if indeed the ruling goes against him in Judge Nadel's court. There's another rumor that has Marge Schott firing him if the ruling goes against him tomorrow night and hiring Chuck Tanner. But one of the problems with this story is that there has been so much attention and so little positive information put out that it has engendered all sorts of rumors.
Can you see Rose seeking plea bargaining to avoid banishment from the game?
There's been some talk of a negotiated settlement for some time now, Marv. I mean, for a guy like Pete Rose, whose whole life is baseball, lifetime banishment would be a death penalty. There would certainly be leverage if Judge Nadel rules in his favor tomorrow. Pete would have some leverage with the commissioner to try to get only a 1-year suspension. And so a negotiated settlement, I think, would be possible, one that would keep him out of perhaps baseball for a year, in which he would agree maybe not to ever gamble again.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
Anytime, Mark.
Bob Jamieson of NBC News. He will be on hand for the hearing here at noon tomorrow. The baseball pregame show continues from Cincinnati in a moment. NBC
NBC Sports presents Major League Baseball, an inside look. Brought to you by First Brands Corporation, makers of new Simonized non-abrasive car wax. And by Road Handler Treadlock radials from Sears. Tough tires you can trust.
Marv Albert back in Cincinnati. One of the major issues involving the court battle of Pete Rose concerns baseball's authority to act as both judge and jury. I asked Joe Tomaine, the acting dean at the University of Cincinnati Law School, does baseball have the legal power to impose a lifetime ban on Rose?
They agreed to this. This is a voluntary association of owners and players. They set up their own rules, and one of the rules explicitly in the general agreement is that if you bet on your team, you will be banned for life. It's very explicit. Do they have a right to do it? As far as people who wish to get together and organize voluntarily and privately, you can do anything as long as it's not illegal or against public policy.
Can baseball function as a dispenser of justice?
Absolutely, it can.
The prime example of that was in 1919 when baseball was rocked by the infamous Black Sox scandal. The World Series was a matchup between the heavy underdog Cincinnati Reds and the powerhouse Chicago White Sox. After the series in which the Reds upset the Sox, 8 of the White Sox players were accused of throwing the series. Baseball hired its very first commissioner, Judge Kennesaw Mountain Landis, to preside over the scandal. The court found the players not guilty of defrauding the public, but Judge Landis, using his powers of commissioner, banned the 8 from baseball for life. One of those 8 was shoeless Joe Jackson. Jackson had posted Hall of Fame numbers with a .356 career batting average. That's the 3rd best average all time. But he was never even close to making it to the Hall because of the disgrace of his management. We are joined now by Phil Pepe, the president of the Baseball Writers Association. Phil of the New York Daily News is in our New York studio. Voting for the Hall of Fame is conducted by the writers. Pete Rose will be eligible for the Hall in 1992. And Phil, if he is in fact suspended from baseball, even with the magnificent credentials, will he have difficulty getting in?
I think he certainly will have difficulty. His chances will be severely damaged. I think it's important to point out that no matter what happens in this situation, his name will appear on the ballot. Whether he will make it, get the 75%, I think is very difficult to project. It's an individual moral issue where the eligible voters will have to decide for themselves whether they want to hold this against him or not.
And how about if he is banned from baseball, if it's determined that Rose was betting on his team? What would happen?
Well, I think obviously his chances would be damaged even farther, but I wouldn't say that that would eliminate him or rule him out. I think some people, I've had an unofficial poll of some of my brethren, and it's pretty mixed. Some people say under no conditions would they vote for a man who's been suspended from the game, and others say it has nothing to do with what he did on the playing field.
Well, there are individuals in the Hall of Fame who are not exactly model citizens, players such as Ty Cobb and Tris Speaker, their names tainted by gambling involvement. How then can Rose be ignored in light of their transgressions?
They have not been banned from baseball. Joe Jackson has Hall of Fame credentials, but has never been elected, even though he's been eligible, because he was banned from the game. He was thrown out of the game. That's the difference. You want to take it one step farther? Joe Jackson was guilty or presumed guilty of fixing baseball games. Pete Rose has never been accused of anything like that. It's a very complex issue, Marv, and I think each individual voter is going to have to make his own choice in this.
All right, Phil, thank you very much. Phil Pepe of the New York Daily News, president of the Baseball Writers Association. When we come back, I'll talk with a compulsive gambler from Gamblers Anonymous here in Cincinnati. Million Americans who engage in what can be termed recreational gambling. Out of that number, there are millions who gamble not as a diversion, but as a merciless compulsion capable of destroying families and lives. 30-year-old Jim is a recovering compulsive gambler here in Cincinnati. He's an active member of the Cincinnati chapter of Gamblers Anonymous. He is a one-time golf club pro. He works as a painting contractor, but gambling nearly wrecked his life. And Jim has had a personal interest in following the Pete Rose saga.
Jim, do you feel that Pete Rose shows some of the characteristics of being what can be labeled a compulsive gambler?
What I've seen in the paper and on TV, I'd have to say yes. The characteristics a person being a compulsive gambler, betting a little more than you can afford to lose, gambling more often, just hours in the day, gambling on different sports, not just one or another. You gamble on a number of things.
What was your feeling about it when you first heard about it?
Like you said, I felt for him because I knew what he was going through. To be accused of, not a crime, but being accused of being a problem gambler, having bet, I think he went into denial right away and obviously said no, he didn't do it, whether he did it or not. I did. I felt bad for him. I feel bad for anybody that has a gambling problem or a drug or alcohol problem or is addicted to anything, because it's a nightmare. And it's a hard thing to get off, but there is help out there, and you can beat it.
Now, if Rose is suspended or thrown out of baseball, how do you think he'll react to that?
That's hard to say. Being thrown out of baseball or suspended for a long period of time, that might be Pete Rose's bottom. That might, if he does have a problem, that might say to him, it's affecting more than just, my average day life. It's affecting my livelihood in baseball and everything I love. But if he, I don't know, we'll have to wait and see.
My conversation with Jim from the Cincinnati chapter of Gamblers Anonymous. Meanwhile, here at Riverfront, as I stand 10 feet away from the Reds dugout, it is on to baseball. Pete Rose awaits the decision from Judge Norbert Nadel, a decision that will come tomorrow, a decision that will probably lead to more legal maneuvering. But for now, the Reds have the Dodgers on their minds. I'm Marv Albert from Riverfront in Cincinnati. Stay tuned for the Game of the Week.
Gray, overcast day at Fenway Park, the beginning of a dual admission day-night doubleheader between Minnesota and Boston. Hi, everybody. Bob Costas along with Tony Kubek. Last night here behind Frank Viola and with Gary Gaetti blasting a pair of home runs, the Twins trounced the Red Sox 10-0. Thus, Minnesota creeps a game over 500, 7 back of Oakland in the West, and the A's come to the Metrodome for a series in a few days. So the Twins are looking to get it down to a manageable number by the All-Star break. As for the Red Sox, their usual home field advantage has evaporated. They're not playing well at Fenway. Their hitting has been anemic of late. The disabled list is bulging. Injuries to key personnel. The Sox are 4 games under 500, 8 back of the Orioles in the East. Here's their GM, Lou Gorman, with Tony.
All right, thank you, Bob. Lou, there are no more restless fans than those that come out here to Fenway Park year after year, and the team's been successful the last 4 or 5 years. Is it time to trade?
Well, Tony, we're getting in trouble right now with the injury. We've got 6 disabled players and some key players on the ball club disabled. Our pitching's a little bit inconsistent right now, so we got to look around and see if we can't help the club some way to try to shore up that pitching.
Lou, some people have said that Wade Boggs may be in a Dodger uniform before this weekend's out. Any credence to that? No credence to that, Tony. No, I've talked to some clubs, and we've tried to sign Wade, but if we can't sign Wade, then, of course, we got to start looking around to see what we might be able to do. But there's no credence to that trade rumor right now. Are you shopping him around? Well, not shopping him around, but certainly if we can't sign him to a contract, he can walk away, of course, in October and leave us. So we have to make whatever decision we can make. Some clubs have called me about him. Some clubs are interested in him. I'll just do some calling and see what happens. Have you put a deadline as to when you will try and send him the All-Star break? When will you meet his agent? Well, we've talked with his agent. In fact, this past week, he's going to come back again in July, but we're way apart on the contract right now, and if we can't get it done without a no-trade clause, we're not going to get him signed. Ricky Henderson would have been a free agent for the Yankees after the season, and he had issued an ultimatum. His agent, Richie Bree, he is now in another division. Will the same happen to Wade Boggs? Well, hard to tell at this point. You know, you hate to give a player like Wade Boggs to anybody. He's a great player, a great hitter. We got to make whatever decision we can to try and help this ball club. If we can't sign him, then certainly there's no point letting the player walk away and get a Class A draft for him. So we'll make a tough decision. We'd like to sign him. If we can sign him, certainly we'd hold him. But if we can't sign him, then we'll make whatever decisions we have to. Lou, our thanks to you. Good luck. Thank you. We'll be back to Fenway Park in the starting lineups right after this.
The Game of the Week is brought to you by Buick and your Buick dealer. The Great American Road belongs to Buick.
Tom Kelly's team has won 4 in a row. They'll start with the former Met Wally Backman at second base, Dan Gladden in left, Kirby Puckett, who slumped up until about 2 weeks ago, then came alive again in center field. Jim Dwyer, the 39-year-old former Red Sox and Oriole, has really carried them in Kent Herbeck's absence. Herbie due off the disabled list Monday. He's got the injured shoulder, but he's just about ready. Gaetti at third, 3 hits, including 2 homers last night. Randy Bush in right, he's been helpful too. Switch hitter Gene Larkin at first, Greg Gagne at shortstop. Tim Laudner will catch and bat ninth.
When John Dobson throws strikes and keeps the ball down with that sinker ball, he can be very effective. If he gets the ball up, it causes trouble.
Dobson was 3-11 last year with Montreal, ended the season with a 5-game losing streak. 6-5 so far this year, ERA 4.5. Backman bounces one to the right side as Sasky fields. Dobson covers. A pair of former National Leaguers combined to retire another guy who came over this year from the senior circuit, Backman.
And if that pattern consists, just the first 2 pitch, first pitch strike, next pitch strike at the knees, sinker ball, Dobson might have a good day, and you better keep the ball down in this ballpark today. The wind is blowing out to left field. Greenwell, Romine, Evans, just getting over a hamstring pull. Boggs, Rivera at shortstop playing very well. Reed moves from short to second with Barrett out. Isaski, Gedman, who's been struggling at bat, catching Dobson today.
Gladden at 288 leads them with 14 steals. Breaking ball high. Late umpire Larry Young. Jim Joyce at first. Jim McKean at second and Big Ken Kaiser at third. In there.
Dobson will throw the occasional curveball that you just saw. He is basically sinker, slider, an occasional forkball, which he has not yet mastered.
The 1-1 pitch fouled off. Dobson came over from the Expos along with Luis Rivera in the deal that sent shortstop Spike Owen north of the border.
The Red Sox, to put it mildly, have been all but atrocious. They have struggled pitching. The injuries have hurt them, as you said earlier, Bob. And a lot of guys not hitting, and they're not doing well in this ballpark.
Bouncing ball foul. Last year, they had a 24-game home winning streak. This year, the Red Sox record at home is 16-18. They won 19 of their first 20 for this man, Joe Morgan. They were talking about Morgan Magic. Since then, 59-66 for manager Morgan.
A hero last year, almost a legend very quickly, a cult figure, so to speak. His contract has been extended, but he is getting criticized by many people at this point, including some of his own players.
And the media here will not cut you any slack. They are among the toughest anywhere in baseball. Gladden lays off and it's high.
You never know in this city whether the media generates the fan criticism or vice versa. The fans are so sophisticated here in this town, so knowledgeable, that the talk show hosts get going, and I'm sure Joe Morgan wants to turn them all off.
Breaking ball is slapped to short. There's Rivera. And there's the second out, although Gladden made it very close, hustling down the line.
Defensively, they are not hurting in the middle of the diamond with Rivera and Reed at second. They're making the double play. They're covering the ground. Barrett, of course, is the spark that they miss in this lineup. So, once again, Dobson, sinker ball down. He's got 2 ground brawl outs, which is exactly what Joe Morgan and Billy Fisher's pitching coach want. The guy they really miss is Ellis Burks. They miss him offensively. They miss his running speed. They miss defensively up the center of the diamond.
Puckett went 0 for 4 last night. Bounces one up the middle. Rivera to his left. Takes care of Kirby. Isaski stayed on the bag. And Dobson works a perfect first. To the bottom half before a packed house at Fenway. Remodeling at Fenway Park, the enclosed area, special new seats of the skybox variety, and they moved the press box up higher. So instead of the intimate view of the field we used to have when we came here, we are peering down from a considerable distance, like a blimp shot for us. Jody Reed is at second base, over from shortstop. Danny Heap, the DH, Boggs at third, Greenwell in the cleanup spot. Evans, the great veteran in right. Esaski, who's provided some long ball punch over from the Reds. Gedman will catch. Romine in center with Burks on the DL. Rivera, the shortstop. High and away to Reed for ball one. 2-0. Francisco Oliveros started off in the Oriole organization, toiled 7 years in the minors there, and under baseball rules, if you spent that long in the minor leagues with your organization, no chance to make it to the bigs, you're a free agent. And that's how the Twins signed him, free and clear. Falls behind 3-0.
Which is a rule the Players Association pushed for years. There used to be people buried in the minor leagues when free agency came around, and Sykes' decision. This helped also.
As Reed had to start the inning. So there they are, Reed at second, Boggs at first, Greenwell at the plate, hitting .294 with 44 RBIs.
Oliveros finally got ahead of a hitter, 0-2 to Greenwell. Now it's 2-2.
And that'll make the seats. Greenwell's RBI total of 44 is respectable, but he's hitting just .235 with runners in scoring position. So he's had a lot of opportunities he hasn't cashed in on. As an example, he's had 7 at-bats with the bases loaded. Struck out once, got a base hit once, and 5 other times grounded into a double play.
Greenwell has not hit a home run in this ballpark since May 5th when he hit 2 off Nolan Ryan. In fact, the Red Sox have gone 6 consecutive games without a home run.
Another 2-2 pitch. Full count. Oliveros is the kind of pitcher, Tony, as you alluded to, who has to be on the black, who has to make good pitches because he doesn't have overpowering stuff. But at this point, he may be nibbling himself into some huge difficulty.
Well, a very disciplined attack. Red Sox take a lot of pitch, and Fenway Park will do that to a pitcher's first year in the league. Are they going to start the runners? Yep.
They go, and he fouls it almost into the same spot.
Red Sox run production was decent up until about the last 9 or 10 ball games where they really slumped. That was due to happen when you get so many guys on the DL. Remember, Jimmy Rice had a great spring, had a great start. Then he had the bone chips, had surgery. He hadn't swung a bat yet. Right arm was cramped. Barrett puts the ball in play, doesn't strike out. He moves runners, and Ellis Burks can do a lot of things with his legs and his bat.
Let's see if they take off again. They do. And Greenwell hits one in the air to left. Gladden flips the shades and tucks it away for the second out. Tony, let's check on those crippling injuries for the Red Sox. Ellis Burks, Marty Barrett, Jim Rice, Oil Can Boyd, essentially they knew they'd be without for most of the season. But now they wonder about his career. Carlos Quintana and Sam Horn, role players, but the absence of Rice, Burks, Barrett, and Boyd from a rotation that was already missing Bruce Hurst, who departed as a free agent.
You know, the Quintana one is a strange one. He saw him walking around, jogging a little bit. He's swinging the bat well, and yet he's disabled. I think they would need his bat. Some said they wanted to bring a pitcher up, so they put him on the DL.
37-year-old Dwight Evans. Check swing. Oliveros can't get it. Gagne charges and throws him out. No runs, no hits. A pair of walks, and 2 are left. No score after 1 in Boston.
Tom Kelly came out between innings along with his third base coach, Reddick, and talked to Ken Kaiser, and maybe planting 2 seeds, Bob. Dobson has balked 11 times this year, has not had a man on. The other thing, he may have gone out there with the wicked sinker he's thrown so far, talked about him perhaps doctoring the baseball. We're speculating, of course, but Kelly's maybe trying to do a little psych job on the umpires. Dobson has 11 balks. Boddicker has 1. He's got more than as many as any other team. Only the White Sox have 11 as a team. Nobody has that many. It's really incredible.
And last year with Montreal, in a year where supposedly they were calling the balks more closely, he committed only 1. Comes over to the American League, and he's balked 11 times already. The 1-1 pitch to Jimmy Dwyer. 2 balls and a strike. Dwyer's an interesting story. Played for the Red Sox. in 79 and 80, and then had good seasons as a role player off the bench for Earl Weaver and Joe Altobelli, later Cal Ripken in Baltimore. But at age 39, he was hanging by a thread this spring. Didn't hit well during the exhibition season, opened the regular year at 1 for 15, and then came alive with Herbeck hurt. He's hit .353 in 116 at-bats.
He was concerned he was going to get released this spring earlier, and got a break when Herbeck got hurt.
Ground ball, Reed to his left. From the outfield grass, he retires wide. Now here comes Gaetti, who had 3 hits, including homers in the 1st and the 9th last night. This is the homer in the 9th off youngster Mike Rochford, a 3-run shot. He now has 16 homers in this park, the most of any active opposing player against the Red Sox.
He doesn't take a whole lot of pitches. He goes up there hacking, and to this point, Dobson has kept the ball down low in the strike zone very well. 4 ground ball outs. Gaetti's one of those players, and we've heard about them for years and years. Right-hander who pulls the ball. Let's get him in this ballpark so we can hit 50 home runs. Oh.
Fair ball, extra base hit. Greenwell chases it into the corner. Gaetti hoofs it for second, in with a 1-out double.
First pitch, the Dobson has gotten up in the strike, so it looked like a slider that stayed up and in, and those are the kind of pitches the Gaettis and the Pucketts jump all over. You will see where Gedman is set up down low, and he got it up and in. You know, another guy that they talk about, similar to Gaetti's style of hitting, Joe Carter from Cleveland. He's going to be a free agent at the end of this year if Cleveland doesn't sign him, and he just tattoos that wall and the screen.
Both Gaetti and Carter have gone wild in this ballpark.
Bush's assignment, he knows it's simple. He's basically a pull hitter. He wants to get the ball to the right side.
Hops this one back, and no play. Boggs over for a look.
Even with 1 out with the Bush up, you'll see the middle infielders cheating toward the bag a little bit. Gaetti not a base stealer, but you see the gap that will be on the right side left by Jody Reed, so there is a place to hit it through that side.
Foul back 0-2. When the Twins were here earlier this year, there was a rainout. They got in only 2 of the 3 games they were scheduled to play. And in this park, where they come close to a sellout almost every game, there was simply no place to put the extra admissions, what with the seats they'd already sold for this one. So no way to schedule a regular doubleheader. They had to make it a dual admission affair. So the 34,000 or so here will file out and be replaced by a new group tonight. Plus,
they didn't have to. The players had to agree with it for the Minnesota Twins and the home players too, and both teams did agree to do it to get them 2 gates.
They get the 2 gates, which is a plus, but even if they weren't inclined in that direction, there simply are not enough seats to accommodate people holding tickets for both games. This ball hit down the right field line. In comes Evans, won't get it, drops for a hit. Gaetti, however, will stop at third for 2 reasons. You just saw one of them. The great arm of the 8-time Gold Glove winner Evans, so he respects that. Also, he wasn't sure off the bat whether or not the ball would be caught.
Bob, it's always interesting to me when you look at the way pitchers' patterns and catchers work. You've got Bush, and we'll watch it, the great throwing arm once again. He gets a good hop to throw on, and he's always been extremely accurate. But it's interesting. Dobson is a low ball pitcher. We've talked about it since the ball game started. He gets a low ball hitter up in Bush. Why would he want to go away from his pitching pattern? Why doesn't he just go strength against strength? He comes up with the pitch, and you see what happens. He's just not effective upstairs.
Larkin, possible double play ball. Reed to Rivera. Do they turn it? They do. The Twins with a double and a single, but they're denied. A true twin killing. Oliveros
out of Santurce, Puerto Rico, in his first major league season with a record of 3-3. Misses outside to Asaski. Whether this is coincidence or not, he hasn't fared well at the Metrodome. 0-2 with an ERA over 6. On the road, he's 3-1. ERA 1.66.
Well, you're talking artificial surface versus dirt and grass, and he's a low ball, sinker ball pitcher, and he gives his defense a chance in the dome. Balls sneak through or bounce over guys' heads. Hisaski's doing just what they asked. He's playing a decent first base. He's hitting the wall here. He's got 10 home runs. He's a run producer. You take your strikeouts with a guy like this. But last year, I thought it was very disruptive to this team to keep moving Benzinger and Evans back and forth between right and first base. And Evans, as you just saw, belongs right out in right field in the spacious outfield.
Saski leading it off in the last half of the second. No score. You know, I wonder what happens if this game goes about 15 innings and the early arrivals for the second half of the day-night doubleheader begin queuing up at the gate. People could be falling all over each other, coming and going.
Would be a problem who's coming and who's going and how many would sneak in or stay in. They'd have to clean the ballpark out first.
You'd have people sitting on one another's laps. No, this is my seat. I insist it is my seat.
Not unusual years ago to play these day-nighters, especially if you're a Yankee player. They were such a popular road draw that every team wanted to play day and night when they were rained out and get 2 gates.
Saski wraps one over Gaetti for a leadoff hit.
You just saw an old-fashioned right-handed power hitter swing. A guy who goes out like a Tony Conigliaro years ago, Jimmy Rice in the prime of his career. The right-handed sluggers who will go and get pitches outside. A little slider that just stayed there, and he just hooked it to try and get it on that wall. Red Sox players don't do that anymore. That's why their home run production has gone down, and some say it's the Charlie Lau and Walter Rignac theory of hitting use the entire field. They maintain a high batting average, but the slugging percentage may go down.
Through a fastball by Gedman, who's hitting just .204. Remember when your old skipper Ralph Houck, when managing the Red Sox, called Gedman the most improved player in the entire league. That was 4 or 5 years ago.
Well, he's a low ball hitter and his bat is slowed down. He is now trying to go the Richie Hebner way. He's the new hitting instructor, keep both hands on the bat most of the time. But it just seems now, I don't know if it's weight training or what, but the bat is a lot slower. Hits the ball hard in batting practice.
He was an extreme Walter Rignac disciple. Head down, top hand off the bat.
There's nothing wrong with your head down. That's been preached by everybody since baseball began. It's where that top hand comes off the bat. Some people theorize that the backside becomes dormant. You don't get your butt into the ball. That's what Ted Williams has always taught, and drive the ball.
The 1-2 pitch.
I mean, he's just so off balance, and you can see on his last swing he just fouled back. Fastballs are all but in the catcher's glove. Now Olivares does not throw that hard. Watch where he hits this ball. This is going to be a great angle because you see the ball is almost even with him when he makes contact. You can see where it is, and you want to get the ball out in front. You're going to put it in play. So in batting practice, 70 miles an hour okay, but the guy throws 80, and he's hitting it out of the catcher's glove.
In fairness, it should be pointed out, though, there are people who swear by Rignac.
I'm not
and Boggs is certainly one of them.
Well, Boggs really didn't use Rignac that much, although he openly criticized Rich Hebner, the hitting instructor, this year, and they had a little to-do, to say the least. But Evans has, and many others took suggestions from Rignac.
There's Boggs, 4 straight batting titles, 5 in 6 years. Luis Rivera sitting alongside him. Off-speed pitch misses, 2-2.
See, the big thing about Walter, and Evans and Boggs have all said that, is he improves your work habits. So, I mean, there are all kinds of theories on hitting, and there's some absolutes, but Walter will not let you take a bad swing in batting practice. He's so dedicated, and that part of his hitting instruction is probably the best part.
Here's a ball hit well to center field, but Kirby Puckett glides back to the edge of the track and puts it away. We mentioned that Evans' trophy case is bulging with 8 Gold Gloves. Puckett hasn't been around as long, but he's won 3 straight.
He plays a relatively deep center field. Get some balls drop in front of him, but he climbs walls, and he's got a throwing arm as strong and as accurate as Evans. Nobody's got a stronger arm than Bo Jackson. That goes overlooked with his tremendous power. Oh.
You think Corey Snyder of Cleveland might have an arm as good?
Yeah, as good, but not better.
They're still talking about the throw he made against Seattle a week or so ago. Romine stands in, takes low and away. Harold Reynolds, who can really run, was positively shocked when he was thrown out on a Bo Jackson throw from the warning track in the right field corner on a fly
and
to the plate.
Flat-footed. He's kind of backpedaling a little bit. What an incredible talent.
Pitch out, nearly threw it away. Saski not a great threat to run, but Tom Kelly thought something might be on.
Great, not even a medium threat to run.
Romine might have been looking breaking ball, but he was way behind on that one.
Kevin Romine got ahead in the count, got a little over anxious, was going to pull the ball and put it up on the wall, and lost sight of the strike zone. A lot of pressure on guys like this in Kutcher when they're playing. I'd say they're AAA ball players, but they're trying to stay in the major leagues, and they're pushing themselves a little much. They're better bench players than anything else, forced into action.
Laudner catching Oliveros today. Orlando Mercado had caught the last several games Oliveros pitched. They had been a battery in winter ball, and apparently Oliveros felt comfortable with Mercado. But it's Laudner who gets the call here. Laudner's name had been kicked around in trade talks for several weeks.
He just signed a pretty big 2-year contract. He's on the first year of it.
Weak wave at that one, and he becomes Oliveros' first strikeout victim. Not a good at-bat for Romine.
Fastball near the edge of the plate. Up, a good pitch to hit the opposite way, and he just pulls off the ball and gets nothing.
In 46 at-bats, Rivera has hit .326. And a strike to him. Saski led off with a single. He's still at first with 2 down. Last half of the second, no score. Oliveros hoping to get a few good innings in here and find a groove. Struggled a bit in the first when a couple of walks got him in hot water, but he worked his way out of it. Coming off a terrible outing at home against the Brewers, in which Rob Deere and Greg Brock lit him up for home runs. And the Twins lost it 11-8. Fastball high.
Bobby, you were talking about the catching situation with the Twins. They've got Laudner. You mentioned Mercado and Brian Harper, who's only caught a few years. But most of the pitchers, I think, prefer, I think they've really said it, throwing to Mercado. Outstanding defensive catcher. They've got 3 on their roster, which is unusual with a 24-man roster. But he just hadn't hit enough. He's one of those guys caught in a numbers game who may end up getting sent back to the minor leagues.
Do we have to revise our scouting report on Oliveros a little bit? He's thrown some high heat past Gedman, Romine, and Rivera.
No, I think what they're doing, the scouting report that the Red Sox got is look for slow stuff, and Laudner and Oliveros are establishing fastballs early. And they're late for one reason. Not that he's throwing that hard. They're sitting on, which is a typical tendency up here in Fenway. Sit on pitches. They've always more been offense oriented, and they're up there guessing, and they're guessing wrong to this point. And as long as they're late in the strike zone, Laudner's going to keep throwing that pitch. It's an old Tom Seaver theory. When they catch up to the fastball, then I'll go to the other stuff. He's sneaky fast, but doesn't throw hard.
A ball and 2 strikes to Rivera. You take a look at the Minnesota club, 7 games back of Oakland. And if they can do a little business head-to-head against the A's in the next few days at the Metrodome, play well between then and the All-Star break, they could have it down to 4 or 5 games. That's not an outrageous expectation at all by the midway point and be right in the race. Another 1-2 pitch. Got him. Caught him looking. Back-to-back strikeouts for Olivares to conclude the second. And we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. This telecast is presented by Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. On to the 3rd inning we go. Dobson hooked up with Olivares in a scoreless game thus far. To put the Red Sox pitching woes in perspective, Roger Clemens has a record of 8-5. The other starters are a combined 16-22 with an ERA of 5.50. You got Oil Can Boyd on the DL, his career in doubt, and Bruce Hurst pitching in San Diego. Mike Boddicker, who was very effective for them in the stretch run as they took the division after he came over from Baltimore, has struggled all year long. So the pitching staff is in a shambles. Boddicker with Clemens there.
And how does that affect the Red Sox psychologically? I think it's simple. They all feel that unless Roger Clemens is pitching, we can't win. And they think that subconsciously before they take the field.
Gagne, Laudner, and Backman against Dobson in the 3rd. Curveball drops in there. Gagne was having his difficulties until they brought his old buddy Don Baylor in on a special assignment, helping with his hitting. And apparently whatever Baylor said, it worked, because Gagne picked up. Now back up to 266.
Well, 2 things. One was a physical thing. You wanted Gagne to stay back and not lunge and go out after the ball. And the other thing was a mental thing. Just focusing, concentrating, picking up the ball from the pitcher's hand and reacting. Don Baylor, talking to Greg, said that not sure, but if he doesn't get calls for something as the season progresses here, he is thinking of going over to Japan and maybe playing there. Just a thought in the back of his mind. Very disappointed, I'm sure, Don Baylor, when he didn't get a phone call from somebody.
Well, he's around 40 years old, and his figures did decline last year with Oakland.
But his presence on every club he's been with the last few years has led to a lot of W's and postseason play.
Well, 3 straight pennants. Let's watch Gagne.
He's trying to hit off a firm front side, and again, Don Baylor trying to get firm backside to a firm front side.
A ball and 2 strikes. Baylor, of course, with the 86 Red Sox, they won. 87 Twins, they win it all. And then last year with the pennant-winning A's. It's a measure of the respect Baylor enjoys throughout baseball that they can bring him in, and a guy like Tony Oliva, the hitting coach here, a great career hitter, doesn't mind.
I'll tell you, their fans are getting a little restive here, to say the least. Somebody just threw a beer can or some kind of can at left fielder Mike Greenwell. They stopped action, and he was thrown out of play.
The 1-2 pitch. Gedman hustling with a Sasky, and it's just into the seats.
Here you're talking about the Red Sox malaise at this point. The other day against Texas, getting pounded upon. Mike Smithson ended up hitting Palmeiro, and only one player, Joe Price, came to his rescue. Almost all of the other players sat on the bench. There's Smithson. Kutcher came in from the outfield, but everything else just sat there, and the Texas team was out in the field. They wanted to fight.
Curveball popped to shallow left. Greenwell. No one could come to Price's rescue last night. Gaetti took him deep in the first. He was the losing pitcher. Viola going 8 innings. Randy St. Clair finishing up in the 10-0 victory. And whatever has ailed Viola this year, it's a tonic when he sees Red Sox hitters. In his last 5 appearances over 2 seasons against Boston, he's 5-0, with an ERA of 0.61. So Frankie was making sweet music here last night. Laudner down at 2-0-2.
Well, you've mentioned the two differences. Viola, if he has a good start. Minnesota is in the race. He starts out, what, 1-7. Hurst is gone. He'd had about 8 or 9 wins. So the Red Sox, in fact, had 2 stoppers, Clemens and Hurst, last year. An off year for him, and Hurst gone, and the two teams are sitting where they are.
The 0-2 pitch. Last year at this time, Hurst was 9-3, Clemens 10-4, a combined 19-7. This year, Clemens 8-5. Nobody else on their starting rotation truly reliable. They're 12th in the league in team ERA. Whoa!
Looked like a slider that he just let go a little bit too soon, although in this day and age, with hitters wanting to start fights and umpires issuing warnings, it's a nice, convenient pitch. Now, I'm not saying Dobson did it to throw a breaking ball and move somebody off the plate. You can get away with it. They always say, well, they don't throw at somebody or move them off the plate with an off-speed pitch or breaking ball. They don't. They do nowadays. Fastball, sometimes it looks too obvious.
He was ahead 0-2. Now it's full. And Laudner drills it foul and out of Fenway Park.
Dobson's been throwing a lot of strikes.
This ball's hit toward the gap in left center, but Romine comes over and makes the catch. Both Dobson and Oliveras are coming off games where they made quick exits. Dobson lasted just 2 1/3 at Comiskey Park last Monday. White Sox beat Boston 8-2. And Oliveras was knocked out in the 3rd inning by Milwaukee at the Metrodome in his last start.
Dobson, the start before the one you just mentioned, pitched only 3 2/3 against Detroit.
One 1-0 to Backman, who grounded to first to open the game. Slaps one to short. Rivera plays it cleanly. And Dobson sets them down without incident in the top half of the 3rd. No score as we move on in the hub. Hughes Wimbledon features on John McEnroe, an interview with Chris Evert, and a revealing look at how the French Open Championship changed the life of 17-year-old Michael Chang. Wimbledon, crown jewel of the Grand Slam, tomorrow on NBC.
Holy hype, Robert. Isn't that the thing now? I'm talking about Batman and Robin.
You don't realize I left the most glowing adjectives out. I edited that copy as I moved along. Here's Reed. 1-0 the count to him as we move to the last half of the 3rd. Oliveras walked 2 in the 1st, got out of it. Now behind Reed, 3-0. It didn't throw a strike to him in his first at-bat either. That one's in there.
Offensively, we have 2 different ball clubs today. The Red Sox like to take a lot of pitches. Boggs, Evans, Greenwell especially. Twins, although they've got a higher on-base percentage this year, like to swing.
Gagne goes back. He calls. And now Gladden comes in behind him and makes the play.
What other park but Fenway for the left fielder make a catch? 10, 15 feet behind the cutout of the infield. Great left-handed wall, which makes this park so interesting. I mean, Gagne's just barely off the infield. That's the reason why, if there's a ball hit deep to left field, the shortstop has to go out if it's close to the wall, because if it's off the wall and the left fielder can't get it, shortstop's got to get it.
He pops it up on the infield, and Gagne will catch this one. As I mentioned earlier, the Red Sox are 2 games under 500 at Fenway, where normally they enjoy one of the more extreme home field advantages in baseball. Red Sox here, Astros in Houston, the Royals at home. Kansas City 26-8 at Royal Stadium this year. It hasn't worked at Fenway this time. Boggs takes a strike.
See that fellow there? Assignment scout, special assignment, one of the top minds in baseball, Mal Didier. Who's he looking at? I mean, if there is ever 2 teams that have compatible needs, Dodgers last in baseball and run production. In the Eastern Division American League, the Red Sox, I'm sure, must still feel they have a chance with a lot to go. And now Ramon Martinez, the great right-hander, pitches a shutout for the Dodgers. Then he comes back in the minor leagues, 12 strikeouts, shutouts. Tudor is ready now. They got so much pitching.
Puckett stumbled a little bit, and he won't get there. He tried to short hop it. It bounces away. Boggs heading for second, and he's in there. Let's see how they score it. That's a catch Kirby ordinarily would have made. And his cleats caught.
Well, I think that after his cleats caught, you got a bad jump and couldn't get in stride. You got to give him a hit. What happened after that, the wrong guy picked it up off the ground.
A hit, but is it a single and an error, or is it a double?
You can't give him an error on that. I mean, the ball short hops him. The wrong arm picked it up, though. Gladden doesn't throw badly, but if Puckett can circle and pick it up, he's got a better shot at throwing Boggs out. I've got to assume that's got to be a double.
It is. They scored as a 2-base hit. Here's Greenwell. Flied out with 2 men on in the first inning. Didier might be looking at Boggs. You talked with Lou Gorman about that on the pregame. He could also be looking at Gladden of the Twins. Apparently, the Dodgers had some interest in him.
Well, they're looking for a leadoff hitter. They can't keep Kirk Gibson in the leadoff spot. He's got to be the 3 hitter in that, especially with Mike Marshall out.
Leadoff hitter and center fielder because Shelby has slumped. Gladden playing left on this club, but he played center a lot when he was in San Francisco. The Dodgers had some interest in Juan Samuel. The Mets got him. 1-1.
And with the Giants do what they're doing and acquiring Bedrosian now, the Dodgers may feel, hey, look, if we are going to catch them, we maybe can't do it only on pitching. They're going to have to get their offense going.
They talked about Willie McGee, but he's hurt all the time, and his value has plummeted. So maybe Gladden is a guy the Dodgers have some interest in. Tried to jam him. He fights it off.
That's the pitch that Greenwell's really having a lot of trouble with. Diving into the ball a lot. He seems like he's out on the front foot, and they just keep burying him inside. Johnny Pesky, who's not their hitting instructor, but does help out in that area with Richie Hebner, sitting up here last night in the booth with us and thought that Greenwell was swaying a little too much, and getting caught between the sways and really burying him inside.
Oliveros delivers on 1-2. Backman. Boy, it came up on him, but he stayed with it. Boggs' 2-out double goes to waste. Greenwell hit it hard, but Backman made the play. We've gone through 3, no score at Fenway Park. Gladden, Puckett, and the cleanup man Dwyer in the 4th against Dobson. 0-0 Twins and Red Sox. The rumor had it that the Dodgers had offered pitchers Tim Cruz and left-hander Ricky Horton for Gladden. The Twins apparently weren't interested in that.
Well, the Twins, I'm certain, that, like everybody else, interested in Ramon Martinez or a Leary or a Belcher. Won double figures in wins last year.
You look at Minnesota's pitching. Viola back on the beam. Alan Anderson, another left-hander, led the league in ERA last year. But they don't have the depth in their starting rotation that the other contenders, Oakland, Kansas City, and Texas, have in their division. Rivera with a busy day. Nice room service hop. Boy, that Gladden doesn't let up for a second. He made it razor close. Not too many right-handed hitters get down the line any faster than this.
You know, Rivera, coming over from the National League in Montreal specifically, was used to playing an artificial surface. And you can see he's made 3 plays fairly close because he waits back on the ball. And that's a habit he came up with on the turf where the ball gets you more quickly.
Fernando Valenzuela pitching today for the Dodgers, going for his 4th straight win.
Still throwing the ball. His fastball barely above 80, but the screwball's biting more, and he's got the ball down.
A ball high to Puckett, who in the last 3 years has hit .328, .332, then .356 last year to finish 2nd behind Boggs for the batting title. Hits one toward right center field, and this one is in between Romine and Evans and up against the fence. Puckett, who leads the league in doubles, has his 26th 2-bagger of the season.
Well, people have been talking about Kirby and asking the same question. Why in the world has your home run production gone down? This is one of the reasons. He's hitting the ball as hard, but he's not getting the ball in the air. He said, I'm hitting more line drives, finding more alleys. He does right now, and a breaking ball away. And almost every time that Dobson's got a ball up a little bit, it's been hit hard. Gaetti got a breaking ball up. Bush, he got a fastball up and in. Up to Laudner, line drive, and now Puckett, the ball was up.
Inside to Dwyer. Over the last...
Express it, the swing from Hawaii.
They haven't expressed the home run swing yet, although he's among the league leaders in batting average and leads the league in hits, doubles, and multi-hit games.
You don't think there are 4 umpires watching right now to make sure that Dobson stops?
Reed couldn't catch it on the fly, retires Dwyer and holds Puckett at 2nd.
With this short hop there from Reed, who was going to catch it on the fly and hopefully double off Puckett, but Puckett was back on the base. That is now 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 ground ball outs thrown by Dobson. So he's got the ball down, generally speaking.
In the last game he pitched at Fenway, getting back to your point about the balks, a no decision against the Tigers, a game the Red Sox eventually won 8-7. He tied an American League record with 4 balks in that game.
Vic Raschi, doesn't he have it?
I know the Major League record is 5 by Bob Shaw, then pitching for the Braves in 1963.
I think Raschi's got the record that Dobson tied for the American League, and that was a year where about the first 2 months of the year they were making the pitchers stop. And a little way through that season, they said, let's get ridiculous, let's cut it out. Every one of Dobson's balk has come when he was throwing a breaking ball. Jerry Remy, the former second baseman for the Red Sox, now a broadcaster, was telling me that before the ball game. There's something about the rhythm that he got into, throwing a breaking ball, not coming to the stop.
There's a 1-0 pitch to Gaetti, who doubled his first time up, and he gets him to go fishing for a breaking ball down and away.
Even though there's a left-handed batter up next in Bush, the way Gaetti swings the bat in this ballpark and with first base open, I wouldn't throw him a strike. Pretty good downer, way out of the strike zone.
Puckett at 2nd with 2 out.
You can see where Gedman's setting up. He's setting up not just on the corner, or he did the first couple of pitches. He's setting up out of the strike zone. You're going to miss. Don't miss toward the middle of this guy.
Three balls and a strike. You were right, Tony. The record of 4 balks in a game in the American League was held by Vic Raschi back in 1950 for the Yankees. Then to show you what a balk-happy year it was in '88, 3 guys tied it last year. Rick Honeycutt, Bobby Witt, and Gene Walter all had 4 called on them in 1 game last year, and then Dobson had that misfortune this season. On the outside corner, good pitch on 3-1.
With 2 outs and 2 strikes, the runner on second base always gets a good jump. As soon as the hitter starts swinging, you start running. You're going to swing through it or foul it off or put it in play.
The ball gets away. Gaetti heading for first. Gedman recovers and throws him out. So it goes as a strikeout. The first for Dobson. Puckett stranded at second. No one's broken through yet in Boston. He starts it in the last of the fourth, and Oliveira starts him with a strike. This is one of their power sources, but Greenwell with 8 homers and Evans with 10 have not been clearing the fences of late, especially here. The Sox have just 4 homers in their last 19 home games, and the opposition has hit 27 here. Well, they've knocked it out of the park only 16 times in Boston.
Evans has just 1 home run in his last 28 Fenway Park games. When you go for average on base percentage, 2 great statistics, not knocking him, but I think sometimes you go for the on base percentage too much and the average, your run production goes down.
At second base, Backman, his second straight difficult hop. He made a fine play on Greenwell to conclude the third, and now handles a tricky one to retire Evans as the first hitter in the fourth.
And it wasn't one of those long hops. Long hops, if you get a bad bounce, you got a chance to recover. This was in between.
Esaski, that is by Gaetti and down the line. Esaski's second straight hit. Could be a close play at second. Gladden's throw will be late. Esaski with a single and a double now.
Well, and that's just why they got him. We said it earlier, because he is a guy is not afraid to pull the ball. Yeah, he will strike out because he leaves the outside part of the plate. Gets a sinker down and in. A good pitch by Oliveira. And you can see Gaetti playing well off the line, thinking the sinker ball, if it was down, it would be away. So he was giving the line.
Ball 1 to Gedman. From Tom Kelly's perspective, this day-night doubleheader will give him important indications about the possibilities for his pitching staff. He's got Oliveira in the day part, and Fred Tolliver just back from Portland tonight against Wes Gardner.
Well, they've made some moves in the last week. Lee Tunnell brought him up. He's back down. Steve Shields with the Yankees last year. He didn't throw well. He's back down. You wonder, the year they won it all, just about 85 wins, the division was weaker. Didn't have all those teams to crawl over. He could do it with a couple starting pitches. Lylevin and Viola, and Straker, the third man, who was inconsistent, and Reardon in a decent bullpen. This year, I think he's going to have to more depth.
1-1 pitch. 1-2 to Gedman. Well, we all know about Oakland's quality pitching. They're so deep they can give up young talents like Plunk and Cataray in the Henderson deal. Kansas City with Saberhagen, who's really in a groove now. Gubazah, 20-game winner. He won again last night. Bannister and Leibrandt. Tom Gordon setting up Steve Farr in the bullpen. They're very strong. And Texas has found Kevin Brown and Mike Jeffco to pitch the no-hitter, not a no-hitter, a shutout last night, to go with the veterans Huff and Ryan. They've got Jeff Russell coming out of the bullpen. The other contenders just have better arms than the Twins at this stage overall.
Rich just can't get around on the fastball, can he? He just keeps getting him back in the strike zone. And the tempo of his swing is going to have to change from this long lot of extension through the ball to a little more quicker and compact. And, it sounds simple, but listen to Ted Williams for years. Quick hands, quick with the back, quick hands. And his bat is slow at this point.
Another one on 1-2. Laudner off with the mask. It's on the screen.
You know, that Ricky Henderson going over to Oakland may be an indication of the 3 players they gave up, Cataray and Plunk and Polonia, that Jose Canseco's wrist isn't coming along as quickly as they thought. They wanted that extra bat in those legs, and they hope they can sign Ricky Henderson. And I guess after Richie Bree The agent gave the Yankees somewhat of an ultimatum that if Rickey isn't signed by the All-Star game, if he's not signed, he'll be a free agent. I think Mr. Steinbrenner told Mr. Thrift, get rid of him, and in a hurry. And they did.
Saski at second with 1 out. Called strike 3. The third strikeout for Oliveras.
It didn't look like a particularly good pitch. Looked like he backdoored him with a little breaking ball. It was really a hanging slider. It was backed up, and Gedman just takes it relatively up in the strikes, and a good pitch to hit up the middle or the other way. And Rich, sitting on those fastballs trying to get around, just froze on him.
Now it's up to Romine, who struck out his first time up. And he swings late. Tipping it back into Laudner's glove.
I don't think he's swung a strike yet, has he?
I must have given fans quite a start when I mistakenly said no-hitter instead of shutout. They might have thought they missed the late box scores. Mike Jeffcoat pitched a shutout last night for Texas against Cleveland. What an improved ball club the Rangers are. Hitters like Sierra and Franco and Palmeiro.
Back to back to back. Has anybody got 3 guys like that? They got Clark and Mitchell, and some other teams got good back-to-back guys. Boy, 3 like that.
The 2-1 pitch. Base hit. Let's see if Saski can score. Bush is on it. Here's his throw to the plate. Cut off. 1-0 Red Sox.
There haven't been many 2-out base hits like this for the Red Sox lately, and there hasn't been a lot for these Fenway fans to cheer about. Leave it to the 8th place hitter, Kevin Romine. And Romine might try and get in scoring position very quickly for the 9th place hitter.
Larkin at first base. If you're just joining us, Herbeck with that injured shoulder won't come off the DL until Monday. Hit to right, and this one will fall in front of Bush. 3 hits in the 4th inning for the Red Sox.
So all of a sudden, off Ontiveros, the hitter's down in the lineup, looking away, trying to hit the ball away, and they've come up with consecutive base hits. Here we were talking about teams guest sitting. So much of that has to do with advanced scouts, and the Red Sox advanced scout, former great third baseman Frank Malzone, who was a big guest hitter. He would sit on the pitch and hit that wall, and if he said the last time he saw Ontiveros, a lot of breaking balls, a lot of pitches away. If you're a hitter that can look and be selective, you can do what the last 2 just did.
Oliveras peering in for Laudner's sign. He's got the one he wants. Reed has walked it fly to left. Here's the 1-0 pitch to him. Hit by Oliveras. Looks like the bases will be loaded. Infield hit. The 4th of the inning for the Red Sox.
It's one of those, if you're a pitcher, the way Backman was playing, you wish you hadn't touched, because it was going to hit the grass, not hit particularly sharply. It would have slowed down. I think Backman was going to be there. Again, a pitch down and away. Jody Reed going with it. And I believe Backman was going to catch that ball and step on second, and Oliveras would have been out of the inning. The reflexes are very simple. Get the glove or get the foot or anything you can on the ball. It's a reflex action.
Berenguer gets up.
He's been a little bit of a mystery this year for Tom Kelly and Dick Such, the pitching coach.
Ball 1 to Danny Heap, who's 0 for 2. Fastball got the corner. Heap has had 85 at-bats this year and compiling that .329 average with the world champion Mets of '86 and titleist Dodgers of '88. He was part of that ragtag lineup that Tommy Lasorda had to put together when Marshall was hurt, Gibson was out, and in one way or another they all contributed. Three balls and a strike. The count runs full to Heap. Runners will be going. Romine from third, Rivera from second, Reed from first. Oliveira's trying to hold it at 1-0. And he pops it up. They're going to leave 3. Gaetti. 1 run on 4 hits. And we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Looks as if Alfred the Butler has placed some heaping portions in front of Batman and Robin in recent months. Boy wonder and the Cape Crusader filling out nicely.
I would suggest if they want to have any chance of catching the Joker, they subscribe for a Nautilus membership in a hurry.
Holy caloric intake. Bush, Larkin, and Gagne in the 5th. Randy Bush singled his first time up. And a ball high from Dobson.
Now he's going to try and pitch Bush upstairs again instead of staying with his strength. And he got behind because of it. There are very few pitchers, I think. You've got to be really good to be able to change your release point. In other words, your low ball pitcher, go upstairs for a couple of pitches and then try and get back down in the strike zone. When you adjust, sometimes you over adjust. It's better off just staying with one release point and staying downstairs.
Cincinnati creeps closer. 4-3 against Fernando and the Dodgers in the 4th at Riverfront.
The impending decision of Cincinnati judge in the Pete Rose affair. Tomorrow.
Breaking ball, bounced foul.
Now, I've got to wonder why Pete Rose agents, or Pete himself, with the alleged gambling charges, seems to be plenty of documentation, just doesn't submit to some psychological testing to see if he is addicted to gambling. That may be his only out if he's proven guilty. Maybe his only out. To preserve not only his image, but salvage all he's given to baseball.
Dobson has struck out the last 2 hitters he faced, Gaetti to conclude the 4th and Bush to open the 5th. Well, an interesting aspect of all this, assuming the evidence that baseball says it has is valid, and it begins to look as if Pete's remaining defenders are just whistling in the graveyard at this point. Assuming that evidence is valid, his only hope is a public act of contrition. But contrition is not part of Pete's personality.
Would that be enough, though? If they are going to let drug addicts, those addicted personalities, to come back in the game after rehabilitation and give them a chance after chance, should they not do it for a gambling addiction too, if in fact he has one. I mean, I would hope that the commissioner, Mr. Giamatti, may suggest that if he already hasn't.
When I say a public act of contrition, I don't mean to suggest that would get him off the hook for a suspension entirely, but it might enable Giamatti, as Larkin draws a one-out walk, it might enable Giamatti to show some compassion, leave the door open, and instead of making it a lifetime suspension, perhaps make it conditional upon his rehabilitation, and maybe in 2 or 3 years the door would be reopened for Pete Rose. That might be the compromise.
A little bit of speed in Larkin, not blazing, but decent runner, and a good hit-and-run man in Gagne at the plate. He puts his bat on the ball.
He pops this one weakly to the right side. Reed retreats to the outfield grass and makes the catch for the second out. One more point. Pete has flatly said, looked right into the camera and flatly said he never bet on baseball. So if it gets to the point where he's apologizing and asking for some sort of understanding, that obviously includes an admission that he flatly lied.
Well, if he's looking for somebody who can help him, great pitcher Sam McDowell is in the business, counseling. And I think Sam, if asked, would be willing to help. He's got a network of people all over the country, if in fact there's an addiction. There he goes.
Here comes the throw from Gedman. It's wide of the mark. It skips into center. Larkin continues on to third with 2 out.
You know, you've got to wonder where this inning's set up if the running signal wasn't given to Larkin on the pitch that was hit to right field off the fist. Pitch out of the strike zone that Gagne did, and either Larkin didn't feel he had a good jump before this, as he's going now with Laudner, who's more of a strikeout threat than Gagne was. Yeah, so many of Gedman's skills seem to have creeped away from him. He tries to hurry this throw. Didn't appear to have a good grip. He was wide open when he threw it. It's really unfortunate because he's such a dedicated worker.
Blocks this one.
I guess a stone base and an error charge to Gedman on that throw that got into center field.
That's what it is.
You would like, if you're a middle infielder, to somehow get in front of it and block it. That's what the middle infielder did, but it took a hop over his shoulder.
A base hit from Laudner here could tie the game for the Twins. Sox took a 1-0 lead with a run in the last half of the 4th.
Gene Larkin was so far down the line, and with all the balks called on Dobson, he's pitching from a windup right here with a man on third base, a short pass ball or wild pitch, and boy, Larkin was going to be in like Jackie Robinson. It's such a big lead. Trennick probably told him to do that, to try and decoy a little bit, get way up the line, maybe stop his delivery, cause a balk.
And a called strike to Laudner.
Years ago, I remember Whitey Ford and Eddie Lopat, they'd throw that at wind-up and they'd get the guy jockeying back and forth. Remember, they'd double pump, triple pump, quadruple pump, and just wear the guy in third base out until he went back to the bag.
Full count now.
It's one of the little things that's missing from the game these days, the old quadruple pump.
Here's the 3-2. Did he go around? They check down at first. No, he has the walk. Jim Joyce, the umpire down there, said Laudner did not commit himself.
He wasn't going to give Laudner a fastball with a man on third base when breaking ball.
Threw him a fine curveball on the pitch before, buckled his knees, and it swept into the strike zone, but that one missed. Now it's Backman, first and third, 2 down. He has to work from the stretch here with Laudner at first. In an early season outing at Fenway Park, the Royals stole 7 bases off Dobson. Bill Fisher, the pitching coach, theorizes that that might be where all the problems with the balks began. He began to hurry his delivery. Wasn't coming to that discernible stop.
Well, the interesting thing is, and the discernible stop is no longer in the book. They took it out. It's left it up more to judgment now. But the interesting thing on that is what Jerry Remy told us. All came on the curveball, the breaking ball, all the balks. So it's just, and if the hitter knows that, he says, geez, his delivery's different on the curve than the fastball.
No advance by Laudner from first as Gedman hustled after it.
Boggs has had to stay tight at third base because Backman, as you know, his reputation for the Mets, especially from the left side, he will try anything to drive a run in, and even with 2 outs, Boggs knows he's got to stay there, which makes him vulnerable as far as the ground he can cover if Backman hits it to the left side.
Misses up high. 3-1. Gladden is on deck. Bouncing ball right side. Asaski will do it himself, and they'll leave a couple. 2 walks, a stolen base, an error, but ultimately no damage. 1-0 Bo Sox. Tomorrow on Sports World.
There are 2 events that our Fenway Batman and Robin should enter in. They should get in there.
Boggs, Greenwell, and Evans. Red Sox lead 1-0 as they bat here in the last half of the 5th. Boggs has walked and doubled.
To this point of the season, Boggs' strikeout total is going up. His base on balls total has gone down compared to other years.
That dips low. 3-0. He has walked 38 times while striking out 23. His on-base average is .409, still a glittering figure, but his career mark in there, 3-1. His career mark in terms of on-base percentage is .445.
Match that up against the splendid Splinter. There's a .482 lifetime ERA, rather on-base average. That's incredible. Guy that hit all those home runs and high slugging percentage. Wade's had the high average, as everybody knows, 4th in baseball history, high on base percentage. Number 9. I wonder if he's on the Miramichi up there fishing in Canada.
Here's the payoff. Walked him. Boggs has walked twice to go with his double today. Coming into the game, he had 1.7 walks for every strikeout this year. Still a very good figure. But his career mark was 3.7 walks to every time he fanned prior to this season. It's a measure of his greatness, though, when we talk about relative declines for him, and he's still hitting .324. And who wants to bet against him winning his 6th batting title in 7 years?
Well, in the 3rd spot, they would like to have him drive in more runs and get on base. The only problem he's having is he'd have Wade Boggs to drive in.
Down the line and out of play. Boggs hit 24 home runs, hitting mostly in the 3rd spot in 1987. In no other season has he had more than 8.
Everybody hit 24 more home runs in 87. There were 6 teams that had 200 or more. Last year was a different baseball, as we all know, and this year I think it's a hybrid. So some fly and some not go anywhere.
The 0-1 pitch to Greenwell. Oliveros and Laudner thought it was at the knees. Larry Young disagreed. A ball and a strike. Hit down the right field line, and this one is foul. This game started under gray skies, and the lights are still on, although the sun has popped out. Now the Dodgers lengthen their lead. They scored twice in the 4th to up it to 6-3.
You can see that Greenwell has the right side to shoot through with Boggs being held on. He tried to do it the last pitch, but he got too far out in front.
And it's through there. Boggs to second. wheels around the bag, heads for third. And the Red Sox have runners at the corners with nobody out.
And there's a possibility of a trick out now to talk. Here he comes, Tom Kelly. He has seen Olivares keep him in the ball game up till this point, but throw a lot of pitches.
Berenguer continuing to warm.
Some say that both Berenguer and Jeff Reardon have not thrown as hard this year as in the past few years. Francisco is going to be gone. What you call situational hitting. Even with 2 strikes, Greenwell got the ball through the right side, create a first and third.
Well, over the last inning plus, Olivares had yielded 5 hits and a walk. So even though it's only 1-0, Kelly's probably made the right move.
Berenguer has seen his ERA go down over about the last 15 ball games. And he's doing a little bit more with the slider and that forkball, the left-handed hitters, rather than that 90-plus heat.
Berenguer was 8-4 last year. 8-1 the year before for the world champion Twins. Each time his ERA right around 4 a game. But that's not bad in the Metrodome in a DH league. It's not great, but it's not bad.
You will see Evans with nobody out first and third. I would think try and take a shot or two the opposite way. Try and make it more difficult to turn a double play. Gaetti staying tight at third, and it's not a sure double play ball. He's going to come home.
And Evans fouls it back. A lot of Red Sox history embodied in the man at the plate. He went through it in the '75 World Series. Some say the greatest fall classic ever. '78, the harrowing pennant race in which they lost the 14-game lead and lost the 1-game playoff on the Bucky Dent home run. And then the bizarre World Series of '86. 0-2. Jim Rice was on the roster for all 3 of those, but Rice was hurt in the '75 World Series, so only Evans among active Red Sox has been through the entire series of events in the '70s and '80s.
It looked like a forkball that Berenguer got upstairs and outside, and it put Evans deep in the hole. First strike, if an umpire misses, you're not as concerned about as when he puts you in the hole 0-2. Another forkball.
Long way to go to catch Yaz. Is Evans building Hall of Fame credentials?
Well, what does he got? 350 some home runs, and
8 Gold Gloves.
His defense, his run production. And he's going to be considered.
Here's a drive to left center field. Gladden turns with Puckett, and it hits the top of the wall. 2 runs will score. Evans missed a 3-run dinger by scarcely more than a foot. He settles for a 2-run double. And now Boggs is arguing that the ball hit the pole instead of the top of the fence.
It did. That ball, I think, was out of the ballpark and hit the pole, and Morgan's going to argue. We have not seen a replay of it yet, but my mind's eye on that play right there hit the pole that goes up the extension and that holds up the screen. They're going to change this to a home run. It is a home run.
There's Bob Stanley in the bullpen.
They're all saying home run. That ball hit a couple of feet above the green monster and hit the metal stanchion. Bounced in. We're going to show it to you, folks, but I can swear the second base umpire did not appear to go out. We're going to see it. It hits above the green monster. You betcha. We saw the top of the green monster. It did not hit it. It hit the stanchion of the pole. That's a 3-run home run. Let's see if you can tell better on this one. That ball was above the wall. By 2.5, at least a foot. At least that's a home run. Evans should have had a 3-run home run. Now you get the old argument, is that one of the calls where you should use in baseball the replay? I still say no, because you will not always have a good shot. So sometimes a game with just the in-house camera will now have all the activity we do to show it from different angles. But that was a home run.
The 1-0 pitch to Osaski is high. You saw Joe Morgan request the ball, and Gary Gaetti, the third baseman, gave it up to him. What he was hoping was that the ball would be nicked from making contact with the metal rather than from the wall. But apparently there wasn't any evidence, at least not enough, to convince the umpires. That's a strike, 2-1.
Well, the second base umpire, Jim McKee, and the ball got out there so fast, he couldn't get out far enough to see. He didn't have an angle, but it's obviously a home run. I mean, to us. And I thought it was from this distance without a replay. Should have asked the ever-honest Kirby Puckett, the center fielder. Get out the polygraph.
There are limits to honesty within the white lines. I think he'd be allowed to take the fifth. It's the umpire's job. Busted a fastball inside on him. Full count to Osaski. Fastball with good movement running in on his fist. Boggs walked. Greenwell singled. That finished Oliveras. Evans doubled on what might have been a home run. That's the way they greeted Berenguer.
Not might have been. It was a home run. It just wasn't called a home run.
Here is what they think might be the definitive angle. That's what they're telling us in the truck.
We've already seen two others that were pretty definitive.
Now they'll slow it down. It's above the wall, and you can see it hit off that pole at least a yard up, maybe 5-6 feet up. No question about it. The umpires missed the call. Evans is deprived of the homer. It's 3-0 Boston instead of 4-0. And Berenguer works to Gedman, who squares to bunt, pulls the bat back.
We'll show you how futile Gedman's season has been to this point. Two men on, a left-handed hitter against a right-hander. He's bunting with Romine and Rivera, the two right-handers to follow. Both right-handed hitters sitting 8th and 9th. Of course, Joe Morgan may have just used that. It could always be, we want you to take all the way and decoy a bunt, and now he's going to be swinging with the infielders moving around.
Gedman's 0 for 2, fly to center, struck out, squares, bunts.
Nobody at third.
Larkin's play is to first, Backman covering.
There was a mix-up there by the Twins, I think. I don't know if Gaetti was all the way in, and maybe Gagne was supposed to be at third base, but Gaetti charges hard all the way. One of those plays that gets messed up at every level, first and second, no outs. Gaetti can't get back, and Larkin looks to third base, and Gagne's at second.
So that's the first out. Romine had an RBI single to give the Sox a 1-0 lead his last time up. Fouls this one back. The infield has come in with the Twins trailing 3-0 in the last half of the fifth. Minnesota's 4-game winning streak in jeopardy.
Well, there was a lot of time out of the box that time for Romine. Joe Morgan liked to squeeze, and usual in the American League, they don't do it that much, not like the National League.
1-1. The Red Sox looking for any sort of encouraging sign. They've not only been losing lately, they've been listless. Here's Backman. His play will be to the plate. Laudner's tag, and they've got Evans coming in. So Evans, who should have trotted across home plate a few minutes ago, slides in and is tagged out here. He doesn't realize yet what he'll find out after the game, or maybe before, if someone who's seen the replay gets word to the dugout, that what he suspected was definitely true. A home run was stolen from him on a missed call, and now he's thrown out at the plate on a good play by Backman with the infield in.
And you are more apt to use the contact play when you're down at the bottom end of your lineup. Ninth hitter Rivera up now. And not much bench strength with so many injuries for Joe Morgan. So as soon as the ball is hit, the trajectory down, you'll want to go. Hope you get a bad throw or a bad hop, or you can beat it.
Saski moved to third. Romine becomes the runner at first. Rivera is struck out and singled. Blows the fastball by him, 0-1.
Hardest fastball he's thrown. I guess he probably wished he would have thrown one that hard to Evans when he was ahead in the count, and he hit it off the pole. Of course, we're talking about two different hitters, Evans and Rivera.
Ooh.
He's overmatched.
That's major heat. Over the last 3 years, Berenguer has averaged exactly a strikeout per inning pitched, but he's always had a high walk total, too.
Remember the League Championship Series when Sparky Anderson tried to psych Berenguer out before a ball game because Berenguer was shooting down the hitters after strikeouts, very emotional. Didn't work. Berenguer came back even stronger. Just a reminder, ninth place hitter, you're no balls, 2 strikes. Let's not make a mistake now. That's why Laudner went out.
Rivera puts his bat on the ball. Lazy pop, shallow right. Backman has it. So they settle for 2 and a 3-0 lead. Evans with a homer that became officially a double. At tiny Fenway Park, they went over 1 million in attendance for this season last night. 23 straight years that they topped the million mark, which is no longer the standard in baseball. Really, 2 million is the standard for a successful season. And some clubs, including, remarkably, the Minnesota Twins last year, have topped 3 million in individual seasons.
Minnesota this year, with their not a very good start, to say the least, is going to drop considerably. Unless they get back in the race, they're going to lose a lot of people. Let me ask you something about the Evans home run that wasn't called out. Why wouldn't an umpire gather all the other 3 umpires and say, okay, let's get it right? Did any of you see it hit above the wall? And, you know, I think Morgan probably requested, it didn't look like Jim McKeon allowed anybody else to give his opinion. Now, maybe none of them saw it because there were a couple men on and they were watching different bases, whether they tagged them. The last rule in the book, the instruction of the umpire says, get it right.
A ball and a strike to Gladden. He's twice grounded to short. We're in the top of the 6th. Dobson working with a 3-0 lead. In the last 2 innings against Olivares and Berenguer, the Red Sox had 6 hits, 2 of them doubles, plus 2 walks, and scored only 3 runs. So it could be a whole lot worse for Minnesota. The umpires helped, of course. Now Gladden drills one to left, and this one's in the screen for a home run.
Well, you're dealing with Fenway Park and the wind blowing out at times to left field, and the most productive run-scoring machine in baseball, the Minnesota Twins. Yeah, you look at the depth and the way middle relief has hurt, and even Lee Smith has struggled more often than not. And the bullpen in this ballpark, as much as they've struggled, silly things have been known to happen. Another pitch up, belt high inside part of the plate.
It's the 4th of the year for Gladden. And now a strike to Kirby.
Rob Murphy.
Puckett is grounded out and doubled. He's hitting .335 at this moment. Over the last 3 years, Kirby has averaged 28 homers and 105 RBIs. At his present pace, he'd hit 9 homers this year and drive in 80. The average has stayed up. The power figures have gone down. One and two. Took a fastball right down the gut.
He doesn't take many pitches ever, let alone a called third strike.
Take a look at this one. Watch where this pitch is. I don't know why he couldn't pull the trigger. Goes down looking, a rarity for Kirby Puckett.
He is not an analytical hitter, so he did not get paralysis because of analysis. For some reason, he just didn't pick up the ball.
Thank you, Dr. Freud. Dwyer has twice grounded to second. Two and 0. Dobson has been dented for his first run here in the 6th on Gladden's leadoff homer. It's 3-1 Red Sox.
Dobson, the kind of pitcher that, if you believe what they say about sinker ballers, when a little bit of the edge is off, he might be more effective. He might be able to keep the ball down with better sinking action. Remains to be seen if he'll be able to do that for the remainder of this game.
Through the box, base hit for Dwyer.
Upstairs.
Well, now here comes Gaetti, a terror in this park, and he represents the tying run. Here's the pitch to Dwyer. Up and out over the plate, extends the arms, and bam, right back through the middle.
Thank you, Robin. Bam. Tim McCarver the other night was saying thwack.
Well, we're all in that Batman mode. Here's a double play ball. Rivera to Reed and on to Osaski. Second double play. The Bo Sox have turned behind Dobson today. He leads 3-1. Bottom of the 6th. Red Sox will send up Reed, Heath, and Boggs. Jody's 1 for 2 with a walk. If you're just joining us, Oil Can Boyd, Carlos Quintana, Sam Horn, and very tellingly for the day-in, day-out lineup, Jim Rice, Marty Barrett, Ellis Burks, all on the disabled list for the Red Sox, who are 4 games under 500, 8 back of the Orioles in the East. But right now, the Blue Jays are about 11 games over 500 since Cito Gaston replaced Jimmy Williams. And you begin to believe, as you look at that mediocre division, that if anybody's going to run the Orioles down from behind, there's plenty of time to do it. The Blue Jays are your best candidates.
Talk about a freaky schedule. We've talked about it before. Blue Jays and the Orioles have not yet played each other. We're near the end of June. Toronto goes into Baltimore this week. Toronto's having a good Western swing. First time out, they were 1-6 or 1-7, undefeated out there this swing.
This is the Audubon Society's favorite pennant race. Orioles and Blue Jays occupying the highest perches.
With the ornithologically correct bird now on the Orioles cap.
You are an impressive man. Here's the 3-2 pitch. Wrapped foul and into the Twins dugout. Tony Oliva flips the ball up for a souvenir. There's Tony, 304 career hitter. 8 all-star appearances. And Reed walks for the second time today. Our producer, John Filippelli, was in Havana earlier this week, checking things out for a telecast we'll do there next summer. USA versus Cuba baseball. And he was talking with Tony before the game, who was very anxious, of course, to get Flip's impressions of this trip to Oliva's native land. Tony has been back several times since the early 70s, but when he first came here to play Major League Ball, 1964 was his rookie year, and he won the batting title for the Twins.
Going.
Here's the throw down to second. They got a chance. And Reed slid around the tag from Gagne. The throw had him beaten easily. But Reed is in there as Gagne argues.
It was all but a walking lead by Jody Reed, which surprised Behringer with the high leg kick, and then Lauder made it close. Gagne may have gotten caught a little bit too far inside. Looks like he caught a fork ball. What a great slide. He slid to the outfield side away from it, and Gagne inside the infield has to reach back.
He still got him.
Whoa, he got his hand, didn't he?
Sure he did.
I believe he got his hand. Not sure, though. That was a little deceptive there.
Sometimes on the replays, you don't have the depth perception that you need to be 100% certain. Here comes a different angle.
Jody Reed slides away from the tag.
He has to have him.
He's got him. King, second base. It's had a rough inning.
He has not had his best day.
You know, McKean was in great position, too. He was right there on the bag, and just that swipe tag.
Heap trying a bunt has failed twice. Now it's 1-2. That calls a tough blow for Laudner. He's had trouble. He's now officially thrown out only 4 of 30 would-be base stealers. He would have liked to have recorded the assist on that one. Would have been a boost for his morale. Rack slider on the coaching lines at third, flashing the signs toward Heap, who is unlikely to be bunting now at the count at 1-2. A beach ball is just blown out onto the field, and play is delayed while the workman comes out of the bullpen area to pick it up.
These are the times, Dodgers 6, Cincinnati 3 in the 6th, when Bob Stanley in better days would get out from beneath that little canopy with his rake. But the way this team's going, they're afraid to get out from their seats. Maybe they're not afraid to get out from their seats. Bob Stanley may have the rake out there.
Yep. He is taking the hatchet to the ball, but
they are having problems. Did he break the rake? No.
So the executioner has done his work, and the carcass is tossed back up among the paying customers. Full count to Danny Heap. Well, here's a crucial juncture in the game. The slow motion replay of the Stanley technique. Paul Bunyan would have been proud. Now the matter at hand. Reed at second, nobody out, on the 3-2 pitch to Heap. He pops it up. Gaetti into foul ground.
Guy right there should be the starting third baseman of the All-Star game. Don't know if he will be. Another guy not getting much credit, having one heck of a year, is Kelly Gruber from Toronto, although he's playing some right field now with a gimpy ankle.
Well, the guy settling into the batter's box has the batting titles and the name recognition. Wade Boggs, he's leading the balloting. Walked twice and doubled. Fastball is high. Interesting situation. What if, just for the sake of argument, these trade talks with the Dodgers come to fruition? Suppose Boggs is dealt to the National League and is the leading American League vote getter at third base.
Well, he's not.
Obviously, he can't play for the American League, but are they obliged to put him on the National League squad somewhere? What if he hasn't been there long enough to really have done anything in the National League? Is that a commissioner or league president's call? That's Mel Didier with the sunglasses, the Dodgers special assignment scout.
I don't know if that's ever happened. It's an interesting scenario you paint, my lad. But let's stop painting a scenario. Let's come up with a decision. Give us some help. What is your rendering?
Commissioner Giamatti has other matters on his mind.
I guess.
That's in there, 1-2.
Commissioner Uberoth left a couple things brewing, didn't he? In the Pete Rose situation. Collusion. 1-2.
Two balls and 2 strikes. I definitely believe Giamatti, though, when he says he has proceeded in this entire Pete Rose case with a feeling of sorrow
No question.
Rather than any sort of anger
he can be
toward
fair,
Pete Rose.
He can be fair and compassionate. The fact remains that the system is archaic, empowering him to do that office to do what it's doing.
Fouled off 2-2. Well, wait a minute. If the commissioner can't decide in the Rose case, what is the purpose of the commissioner's office?
Wait a second. I mean, let the commissioner decide on expansion and fines, but this is a legal matter which may violate Pete Rose's constitutional rights. Now, I know the NCAA thing with Tarkanian and all may have empowered sports to do that, but I don't think it's fair.
Here's the 2-2 pitch. Full count now to Boggs. It isn't just the Tarkanian decision. The powers of commissioners have been upheld by the courts in the past. And powers of other organizations to enforce their own rules, which may be different than the rules governing society as a whole, have been upheld as well, as long as those rules aren't outrageous or capriciously applied.
Should individual rights not preclude those kinds of decisions?
Here comes the payoff. Line drive center field. There's a hit. Reed comes racing around third. Ahead of Puckett's throw, he slides across. RBI for Boggs. His 30th run knocked home. He's 2 for 2 with a pair of walks today.
Well, the man this year, and he's done it every year, is hitting almost 350 with men in scoring position. And since he's been in the number 3 spot, this is his 24th ball game, Boggs has hit at a 400 clip. He puts the ball in place somehow with authority.
Statistically, Berenguer was behind the 8 ball to begin with. This guy is a career .405 hitter against right-handed pitching in this park. Hits off a pair of right-handers, Oliveros and Berenguer today.
Balked, and Tony Oliva is all over Ken Kaiser. I believe he called the balk, and I think he's saying the hitter stepped out of the box and wanted time. That's going to get Kelly out now. Kelly cannot come out and argue a balk call. It's an automatic ejection, like a third call strike. So Kelly wants to go to the home plate umpire, Larry Young, and said, was time not called by the hitter? How can you call a balk if time is called? That's what Oliva was saying from the bench, and Kelly is going out and trying to get that straightened out. Now, he'll send him back. Yep, Young checked with Kaiser, who called the balk, and said, yeah, there was timeout. And he'll get an argument from Joe Morgan.
And now when Morgan comes out, he will probably pass along word that he has seen the replay of the blown call on the Evans blast. And hey, you took a home run away from us earlier, now you're taking a base away. But this call is correct. They have rectified a mistake here. They were apparently unaware or unwilling to rectify a mistake earlier.
Right there. It's when Berenguer dropped his hands, and Kaiser, this is a good call because Kaiser was watching the pitcher. The umpires generally assign specific areas of responsibility. Like one umpire might watch the hands, one might watch the shoulder, one might watch the foot, see what's going on, and that's what Kaiser was focused in on, and he did not see Larry Young grant time to Greenwell. But they got it right, and that's the important thing.
Why the hell did you ask Kaiser?
Berenguer back to work on Greenwell.
And you heard Joe Morgan's comments, which have some validity. Well, if he called time, why did he ask Kaiser then? The umpires are getting themselves in and out of hot water today, aren't they?
A run home already here last half of the 6th. Here is a bullet down the right field line. Boggs is on his way to third. Let's see how Bush plays the carom. He's being waved home. Boggs is going to score on this one. He slowed up a little bit, and that made it close at the plate. He stopped running hard between third and home, but he skips across. And Greenwell winds up at third. 5-1 Red Sox.
It may be a double, and Greenwell went to third on the relay home from Backman to Laudner. So Greenwell, who has been having some difficulty getting the bat head out, hits this double into the corner, and rack slider, knowing the arm of Randy Bush and how spacious that is out there, keeps him coming. And on this throw, Greenwell goes to third base.
So Berenguer has failed to hold the fort in the 5th and 6th since relieving Olivares. Here's Evans. Down and away for a ball.
Infield, back in again with the Twins trailing by 4. Ooh, nice stop.
Generally speaking, Tony, as we'll take another look at what Laudner just did here to prevent a run.
Forkball, I believe, Bob, and this is something that he's been throwing a little more of because he has been inconsistent with his fastball. We've seen some real hard fastballs from Berenguer and some not so hot.
Generally, middle relief has been a problem this year for the Twins. A problem that continues today. That's a strike. They think they might have found an answer from the left side late in Gary Wayne. They haven't had a good, dependable left-handed reliever in several years, even when they won the World Championship in '87.
And he's up right now.
There he is. Reardon isn't quite the overwhelming reliever he was with Montreal and early in his tenure in Minnesota, but he's still a good one. But middle relief, getting to Wayne and Reardon, has been consistently ineffective for them. Hit toward left center field. Gladden in pursuit. Won't get there. One bounce against the wall. Another double for Evans. In comes Greenwell. 6-1 Boston.
I would love to see right now the conversation between Evans at second and if McKean comes in to talk to him. He's the second base umpire. McKean is sneaking a little bit closer. He hasn't said anything to Evans yet, although Evans keeps looking at him. Evans being somewhat of a mild-mannered guy who lost a home run, kept looking, but he got no reply or conversation from Evans at second.
The Red Sox string 3 hits together. Boggs, Greenwell, and then this double by Evans. Each gets a single RBI in the inning.
Forkball a little bit up in the strike zone that Evans, who's an extremely strong guy, hit with all but one hand. Here comes Tom Kelly. Will we see a left-hander? Esaski up. Could have Esaski put on base, and then you pitch to Gedman, the left-handed hitter, if Gary Wayne does come in.
That's it for Berenguer. Berenguer is jawing at the plate umpire, Larry Young. Did he toss him? Not yet.
Well, I think he just waved him off, but I don't know. He's out of the ball game anyway. I don't think he threw him out, which would be the fine for one. Down on second base, with first base open, Tom Kelly has elected to allow Wayne, his left-hander, pitch to Esaski. Esaski 2 for 2, a run scored, and he's got a walk. 6-1 Boston. 2 balls and 2 strikes. We are not sure if Juan Berenguer was thrown out. Larry Young, the home plate umpire, kind of waved him off, and then Ken Kaiser, third base umpire, threw Berenguer off the bench. So I guess he's been ejected. Breaking ball that Esaski swings through. There are 2 outs. A breaking ball that started a foot outside, and Esaski way out in front. Now it's Rich Gedman. He is flied out, struck out, and sacrificed. A very funky delivery by Gary Wayne, the left-hander. He's had almost 2 different kinds of seasons. His first 18 and a third innings pitch, he had an ERA extremely high. Over his last 20-plus innings, he has been very effective. 1 ball to Gedman. 1-1. My friend, who was in conversation with Jim Cott, the Twins broadcaster's an all-time great pitcher, is back. What information did you garner?
What makes you think that's where I was? A man slips away at what appears to be an opportune time, and they pull the rug on him.
Have you noticed over the last week or so that the umpires in the Major League are a lot testier? They're challenging players and managers a lot more since Don Fear, the executive director, came out saying that the players would rate the umpires confidentially.
Here's Wayne juggling it a bit, but then throwing Gedman out. So Wayne puts a finish to it by retiring Esaski and Gedman. But the Red Sox throw 3 on the board and up their lead to 6-1. Back after this from your local Young, and continued to scream from the bench, and Kaiser did eject him at that point. Bush, Larkin, and Gagne here in the 7th against Dobson, who's got a 5-run cushion.
Which is really kind of silly at times for the pitchers already out of the ball game, and you cost yourself maybe $100, maybe a couple of hundred.
Umpiring has always been one of the most difficult jobs and underappreciated jobs in sports. And with all the technological advances and the various angles we can give you, the scrutiny becomes even greater. The possibility that an error will be detected increases. But even stipulating that, this has not been a good day for this umpiring crew. Grounded down to first. Esaski, tough hop for him. Dobson covers. They still get Bush.
Counting the 2 double plays that Dobson has thrown to the Twins hitters, this is 13 ground ball outs recorded. So he's had a decent sinker when he's kept it down. He's hit it on the ground in the infield. When he's got it up, he's had some rifle shots hit off him.
Larkin hit into a double play and walked. At first base for the injured Kent Herbeck. They were a game over 500 when Herbeck was playing, 15-14. This one is foul. They're exactly 500 in Herbeck's absence, 21-21. So in the standings, it has not appeared to hurt them. They were averaging 5.5 runs a game with him in there. They're averaging exactly 5 a run in his absence, so it's cost them half a run a game.
And outstanding defense. This guy, he's a big guy, but he can play first base. Very agile, very mobile, even though the last couple of years he's played at times with a little ankle injury. Last couple of years, Kent has been pulling the ball a little bit more to take advantage of that screen and the padding in right field in the Metrodome. Say, did you see Richie Phillips, the head of the Players Association, rejoinder to Don Fear, Umpires Association, when the players were going to rate the umpires? Richie said, we'll rate the players then, and we'll make it public on what pitches they can and can't hit. Nice play.
Esaski will do it alone.
Nice war of words going on there.
Well, you get Richie Phillips and Don Fear nose to nose. You have 2 pugnacious characters. Phillips given to outlandish statements a bit more so than Fear.
What Donald Fear wants to do is it would be confidential to hope and improve umpiring conditions and the relationship between umpires and players. I don't think it was ever thought that those things would be made public.
Gagne, who hails from Somerset, Massachusetts, about an hour's drive from here. His younger brother was out on the field with him today, playing some pepper.
You see what happened out in the batting cage in center field. Younger brother was throwing BP, and Gagne hit a bullet. He didn't get behind the screen, and he had an ice pack on his knee before the game.
2 quick outs here in the 7th. Nobody aboard. The 1-1 pitch. Curveball checked his swing and fouled it off.
I think John Dobson has a chance to be an excellent pitcher in this league for this ball club. He's been inconsistent this year, as everyone knows. When Billy Fisher gets hold of him and maybe mixes a few changeups in, he hasn't thrown a whole lot today, or that little forkball he's been messing around with. had a chance to be a good pitcher, a good number 3 starter for the Red Sox.
He's only 25, 6'4", 205 pounds. A native of Baltimore. He hits Gagne totally unintentionally. No dispute from Greg. Down to first he goes.
15. The first thing a Little League parent should do is take a wiffle ball or tennis ball and teach their youngster to get out of the way of a pitch like this. It'll eliminate some of the fear factor that you turn your back to it. Like Tony Fernandez earlier when Guante hit him in the face. He all but froze and may have even turned into it. It does hurt, but you're not as vulnerable by getting hit in the back.
Laudner lined to center and walked.
You know, a player that turns like that too, from right-handed pitcher to right-handed hitter, it helps you hit the breaking ball better too. If you start pulling away from the ball, pull your shoulder out, you lose the outside corner. But if you tuck and then the ball breaks, you can still reach the outside part of the plate at times. It's a great teaching tool to protect you and also hit pitches away.
Bouncing ball, Rivera. Quick throw to second. Reed covering, and they just nipped Gagne for the force. No runs, no hits. A man hit by a pitch. And we come up to another edition of State Farm's Rules of the Game. The early 70s. But as you know, Tony Kubek, when he first came up, and you saw him toward the end of your Yankee career, beginning of his career with the Twins, when he won back-to-back batting titles his first 2 years in the majors, when he first came here, as was the case with many Cuban players, he did not know if he would ever see his homeland and the friends and relatives he left behind again. And he went 8 years before he did. With that tremendous feeling of uncertainty.
He and his former roommate, Rod Carew, had 10 batting titles in the same room at one time. And Tony was a Hall of Famer. I mean, great batting average, power, outstanding runner, and a great throwing arm. But when you look at his knees now, the last couple of years, he could barely move.
Roma in the hitter. He's 1 for 3. Had an RBI single in the 4th. Had another RBI chance his last time up, but with the infield in, he bounced to Backman at second, and Backman threw Evans out, trying to score from third on the contact play. Speaking of Oliva and Carew, Tony, this day in baseball, on this date 34 years ago, June 24th, 1955, home run number 1 for 18-year-old Harmon Killebrew. There would be 572 more. And there goes Larkin over near the tarp to make the catch. Romine is retired to start the last half of the 7th.
Do you know what your idol used to call Billy Heft every time he pitched against the Yankees? Mickey used to call him Santa Claus. Mickey seemed to hit him so well. Every time Billy Heft would be warming up, I think there were times when Harvey King, Mickey Mantle, and Billy Heft spent a few nights out in the town, New York and Detroit. He said, "You give me a lot of gifts, Santa." I used to love to hit off him.
Well, if Mickey called Billy Heft Santa Claus, he called a guy he used to face regularly in this park Scrooge. When the monster man Dick Raditz came out of the bullpen, Mickey should have just mailed it in. Mickey Mantle batted 63 times in his career against Dick Raditz and struck out 46.
Those high, hard ones get Mickey from the left side. Raditz threw hard.
That was always the book on Mickey, lefty. The fastball up and in. And if anybody could deliver it during that era, it was the monster man.
So you may be right. You said earlier in the telecast, what happens if this is a long game and the fans coming in for the night game of this split doubleheader met the fans going out? You may get your wish.
It's not exactly as if parking is readily available around this ballpark either.
The players will shower, come upstairs to the dining room, get a meal on the Red Sox. They'll have Boston scrod.
You ask questions to which I have no answers. Full count now to Rivera. Thought he had the walk. He's 1 for 3. Had a single back in the 4th. However, there is a stray point that you made about Pete Rose a couple of innings ago. And we'll finish up on that in a minute. You asked if individual rights shouldn't supersede the powers of the commissioner. But remember, there are individual rights which are given up upon joining organizations and abiding by those organizations' rules. A chopper that is grabbed by Wayne, and he throws Rivera out.
Oh, there's no question. Every time you walk into a Major League clubhouse, the rule is posted on every bulletin board about gambling. Every spring, FBI meets with players and talks about gambling or making any kind of phone calls from the ballpark or from within the clubhouse. You put yourself in jeopardy.
And there is obvious good reason why a professional athlete should have different rules governing his behavior pertaining to betting than somebody who's just part of the general population. They're long-established rules. The only way in which the court, it would appear, would be on solid ground in overturning Giamatti's powers and wresting the decision from his hands here would be if they could determine that the investigation or the judgment that follows the investigation was outrageous, that it was capricious, that it followed no logical pattern. But as long as it wasn't outrageous, it could be questionable. Someone might disagree. But as long as it wasn't wildly off the mark, the precedent appears to be that what the commissioner does stands.
And that's why Judge Nadal said he wants a little more time to see if that precedent apparently can be overruled. It's going to be tough. And as you said earlier, Marv in his interviews pregame, various people, Bob Jameson, will a judge in Cincinnati, an elected position. Well, what kind of position will he be put in?
Jody Reed pops it up on the 3-1 pitch. Gary Wayne sets them down in order in the last half of the 7th as Gagne makes the catch, but the Twins have a hill to climb, 6-1. We move to the 8th at Fenway Park. Dobson has allowed the Twins only a single run on 5 hits. One of those 5 hits, a leadoff homer in the 6th by Dan Gladden to account for their only run.
You've been here 2 days and you can't say it right, Fenway Pack. Got to speak the language. When in Rome, do as the Bostonians do. They're in tight at the corners for Backman.
He hits one in the air to left. Greenwell drifts back, and look at this carry into the screen for an opposite field home run for Wally Backman, who can scarcely believe it himself.
He found out about the Fenway Park wind, how capricious it can be, and it is now blowing out a little more strongly. He just waved at it. He got one of those hybrids on the lively side, folks, and helped from the wind.
This is another of your arcane theories.
Oh, no.
Hybrid baseballs.
No, you had the 87 ball, you had the 88 ball, and now we got some of each this year.
That's Wally Backman's 8th career home run.
How many has he ever hit the opposite field though?
That I can't answer, but not many, I'll tell you that. He hit 3 home runs for the Mets in '82. He's never had more than 1 in any other season, and that was his first this year.
Well, with the bigger ballparks in the National League, it's a consistent factor. If he did hit from the opposite field, he had to hit a lot farther than that.
So it's 6-2. Here's Gladden, who hit one his last time up. And he drives one to left. Back goes Greenwell, back to the scoreboard, and it's off the fence. He can't play the carom cleanly. Gladden, with his speed, would have had a double anyway, even had Greenwell come up with it right away.
High breaking ball, it looked like, and it was off the end of the bat, and Gladden saying, what? That ball hit above the scoreboard on the wall? Hit that baby on the end of the bat. You could hear it. Didn't sound good. Greenwell thought he's going to catch it. You can see why the center fielder has to back up anybody off the wall. Or your shortstop goes out, and it just kept drifting in the wind. So the Green Monster bites Dobson.
Let me correct myself. I was unfair to Greenwell. I thought he had a little trouble picking that up, but he did play it cleanly. The ball bounded back a bit further than he might have thought, but he came up with it quickly.
Here comes Joe Morgan.
Gladden's just too fast. In with the double, and now Morgan might have decided that it's time for Rob Murphy. The home run by Backman was his first in almost 2 years. The last time he connected was the 31st of August, 1987, off the Padres' Eric Shaw while playing for the Mets.
Rob Murphy.
Dwight Evans acting as his personal doorman.
I'll tell you, Rob Murphy, some of the other members of his bullpen are getting a workout. This will be his 31st appearance. Bob Stanley has 30. Lee Smith, their closer, who has struggled, has 25. Lamp's got just 19, but he's got about 50 innings pitched. And when your starters are struggling, here's Lee Smith. Rochford, that was to his right. Starters are struggling. The bullpen can get worn out in a hurry, especially in parks like this, or Fenway, or Seattle, or Old Exhibition Stadium in Toronto.
Mike Boddicker among those over to offer their congratulations. Randy Kutcher and Danny Heap. Ed Romero, number 11. So Dobson has an opportunity to take his record to 7-5. So now Murphy will face the heart of the order for the Twins, which of course is minus Kent Herbeck. In this case, it's Puckett, Dwyer, and Gaetti. But this is an interesting bit of research. Ruth, Gehrig, and Lazzari, of course, far and away the best trio statistically, but that was a different era, and comparisons are difficult. Mantle, Maris, and Skowron in the early 60s, including the 61 season in which Maris hit the 61 homers and Mantle 54. Mays, McCovey, and Cepeda very potent for the Giants during that stretch. Cepeda, of course, eventually dealt to the Cardinals. Big Red Machine, Perez, Morgan, and Bench. Johnny Bench in the ballpark here, working the night game for CBS Radio along with Steve Busby. And Puckett, Herbeck, and Gaetti fare surprisingly well in comparison. The 34 RBIs is an incorrect figure. We'd have to check and see what it really is.
You know,
obviously, that's
where
wrong.
These numbers, when you try and compare era to era, or different ballparks, artificial surface, DHs now, relief specialists, they don't show on-base averages, which is very important, and complete slugging averages, which sometimes can be more important than batting average. So, interesting to discuss. There's Johnny doing a game for CBS Radio today with Steve Busby.
Puckett had a double in the fourth. It's his only hit in 3 trips. One for 3. He was hitting .334 when the day began. He's at exactly that right now, obviously. And he takes ball 1 from Murphy.
Right-hander, left-hander, right-hander. You can see a right-handed pinch hitter for Dwyer, and that's the faith that Joe Morgan has in his right-handers out of the bullpen. Of course, Lynn pitched yesterday. And he's got another game tonight.
Gladden is second with nobody out. A run home here on Backman's opposite field homer in the 8th. 6-2 Red Sox. Foul back. Let's see if we can get the guys in the truck to put that graphic about the great 3, 4, 5 hitters up one more time. We can give you the correct figure. It's 99 RBIs on average. Puckett, Herbeck, and Gaetti in a 3-season stretch. A composite 304 average, 29 homers, 99 RBIs. Did a lot of damage around the American League.
Murphy's sneaky fast. Excuse me, Bob. He likes to keep the ball down. He's averaging about a strikeout per innings pitched this season. Now, did you see any kind of stop at all from Murphy that time? Like he almost just went right into his delivery without stopping. So the umpires are still using judgment, which is all they've got now.
Foul back, jammed in the screen, and that fan tried to yank it loose. And here's the usher showing him back to his seat, or perhaps to the street. The fans don't approve as the souvenir seeker is being ushered out. At least the Red Sox are winning today. Otherwise, they'd be in a particularly foul humor, the way things have gone the last month or so. 2-2 to Puckett. He's on the short list of the best all-round players in baseball, certainly among the best 4 or 5. Some would select him over the last 2-3 seasons as the best all-round. You'd get an argument from the supporters of a few other players, but not many.
The one thing Kirby is doing a little bit better, and maybe responsible for him not hitting as many home runs, he's taking a few more base on balls, and by working the count a little deeper, maybe when he gets to 2 strikes, getting more walks, of course, but he may cut down his swing a little bit.
To the opposite field, Evans makes the catch. Gladden speeds for third, taking a risk, down 4 runs, but he's in there.
Some people may say this is a little bit of National League style baseball, and that's one of the reasons you go out and get a Dan Gladden and then a Wally Backman with speed, perhaps a little more aggressive because of the artificial surface and bigger ballparks over there. Even trailing by 4, he took a little chance. If the ball's right on line, it would have been bang bang and very close.
With the left-hander out there, Dwyer, the DH, will be hit for by right-handed batting Brian Harper. Swing and a miss.
Harper's 0 for 2 as a pinch hitter this season. You see his other numbers in front of you now.
And Murphy's ahead of him 0-2. Rob has been very effective of late in his last 17 appearances, usually not in a closer's role. Only 2 saves in those 17 appearances. But his ERA over that stretch is 1.09. Occasionally misleading for a reliever because he might have allowed inherited runners to score and they weren't necessarily charged against his record. But generally speaking, he has been sharp. Harper stays alive. That could be an important play Gladden made a moment ago. The Red Sox infield obviously will concede the run with 1 out here. They could get to it in 6-3 on an out. A much more manageable figure with an inning to go. Get a walk and a bloop. Bring that tying run to the plate. This is popped up and won't get the run home. Evans to the line in shallow right makes the catch, and with his arm, even the bold Gladden has no intentions.
This is, along with Yankee Stadium, and I guess Wrigley Field can be tough at times, but this is one of the toughest sun fields in all of baseball. You can see the shadow, although there are some clouds today, you can see the shadow from the catcher Gedman and what Evans had to battle, get in position to make a throw home.
Gaetti is doubled, struck out, hit into a double play. Began the day hitting .272 with 15 homers and 54 RBIs. Swing and a miss.
You already know this, of course, but Cliff Keene, an old-time writer here, saw Ruth play here, and Ruth refused to play right field in this ballpark because of the sun.
Gaetti's 54 RBIs place him third behind Ruben Sierra and Julio Franco of Texas. outside, 1-1. Sierra leads with 59. Franco next with 58. The 15 homers also put him among the league leaders. Rob Deere now has 20 for Milwaukee. Bo Jackson and Mickey Tettleton each have 17, and there's a group of 5 at 15, and Gaetti is in that group. You might have seen in the background, the guy wearing the light blue tank top was just allowed back to his seat. Apparently they just gave him a stern talking to, but didn't toss him out of the park. And that's what the fans were reacting to.
You can see that natural tail that Rob Murphy has on that fastball. And there's a four-seamer, it'll ride a little bit, and then he can sink it and move it away. And he's got Gaetti to this point swinging at pitches about 6 inches off the corner outside. Interesting to see if they feel they've got Gaetti set up to come in a little bit and bust him on the fist. Dangerous in this ballpark the way he hits that wall.
A ball and 2 strikes.
There it was. Came in. You can see the location. After the one went down for the fastball, Gedman went into his left thigh. Then a location in. But in off the plate, I'm sure. See him look up to see if Gaetti's peeking.
A pitch off his shoe tops.
Gaetti really hadn't gotten his due, I don't think, for the all-around player he is. I mean, he's playing in Minnesota, and even though they got in postseason play, won a World Championship with Wade Boggs playing so well and hitting .350 every year, you forget how good his glove is. A good base runner. Came back very quickly, Bob, from that knee surgery.
Change up, got it. For Murphy as he hits the dugout. 6-2 Boston. The hitter's spot is due first with the left-hander on the mound. The lefty swinging Danny Heap is called back. Rookie Dana Williams batting for him here. Bouncing one to Gaetti. It's a fair ball, and he throws him out. Tony, you were talking about how Gaetti has not gotten the sort of national recognition he's deserved. He's won 3 straight Gold Gloves at third. Over the last 3 seasons, well, there it is, just what I was about to say. Only 3 players have averaged 30 home runs and 100 RBIs. The other 2, George Bell and Jose Canseco, are the last 2 MVPs. Gaetti was the MVP of the playoffs in 1987. Or did that go to Brunansky? Might have been Brunansky who came on late. It was Gaetti who sparked them with the 2 home runs in the first game at the Metrodome against the Tigers. Gaetti generally excelled in that postseason.
And when you have a healthy Herbeck and Gaetti playing, I don't think there's any combination first and third that are as good a run producers and defensively in all of the major leagues. You can get arguments with Howard Johnson and Keith Hernandez when Keith is playing. Boy, talking about defense and offensive production, third and first, tough to beat Gaetti and Herbeck.
Now the count quickly runs out to 3-0 on Wade Boggs. And a 4-pitch walk. He's been aboard all 5 times today. Came in with an on-base average of .409. He has a double, a single, and 3 walks.
And you just knew, it's almost like the stock market with Wade Boggs. In about April, you see him about 250. And if you bought at 250, you know that you're going to make about a 100-point profit because he's going to be at 350 before the season ends.
Another beach ball out onto the track in center field. Kirby Puckett picks it up. Here are the early arrivals for the night game. This is not your standard doubleheader. It's 2 admissions. If the Twins should rally here and send this game into extra innings, the streets will be bulging with people. No place to put them. The on-base percentage of Boggs will jump today, reaching 5 straight times. At the beginning of the day, Alvin Davis of Seattle Talk about players who toil in obscurity. There's one, fine first baseman. He led the league at 433. Harold Baines was next at 426. One and one to Greenwell. Scorched the double down the right field line for an RBI hit his last time up. Had singled on his trip before that. 2-1.
A lot of what Greenwell does, I think, he is kind of garnered from watching Boggs. He's got more power and pulls the ball more, but I think a lot of his philosophy of taking a lot of pitches and seeing everything a pitcher's got comes from Wade. Very few can handle it the way Wade does and hit with 2 strikes the way Wade has over his career. Bottom of the 8th, Dodgers now with that 7-run lead. Can you believe they're scoring some runs finally? Dodgers offense is really struggling.
And the A's with the lead in the 5th at home on the Blue Jays.
How about that first inning yesterday, Oakland and Toronto? 13 runs scored in the first inning. If you hadn't heard, look what Vince Coleman did. He just tied Davey Lopes' record last night with 3 stolen bases. He got 38 consecutively without being thrown out.
Yep, Lopes has held the mark since '75. We checked, just for those of you who keep track of these things, and Gary Gaetti was the 1987 playoff MVP for the Twins as they beat the Tigers in 5 games.
Well, he set the tone. That first ball game against Doyle Alexander, hit the home runs to dead center field, and it seemed to give the Twins so much life.
Hopped up right side. Backman. That's the second out. Frank Viola, of course, was the World Series MVP against the Cardinals, winning 2 of 3 starts, including the 7th game. There's Frankie, pitched the shutout last night. Actually doesn't get credit officially. You've got to throw a complete game to have it count as a shutout in the records. He worked 8 scoreless innings, and Randy St. Clair finished up.
Well, they've got their 3, 4, and 5 guys going today. Boggs, Greenwell, and Evans. They've all contributed. The on-base percentage, hit, and RBI department. Something's been lacking from this Red Sox ball club, but basically it's been lack of depth in the pitching staff.
Evans closing in on 300. 2 for 4, a pair of doubles today. Started the afternoon at 294. If you weren't with us in the 5th inning, you missed a controversy which, as it appears now, is not going to cost the Red Sox a victory, but did cost Evans statistically. He hit a ball that should have been a home run and was ruled a double. He hit a ball over the green monster in left center that hit the pole which supports the screen above the barrier and quickly bounced back onto the field. And as the umpire saw it, it had hit the top of the fence. And so the ball was ruled in play, and he stopped at second on what should have been his 11th home run.
And the way Kirby Puckett played it, it may have fooled McKean also, who couldn't pick up the flight of the ball. He played it like it was off the wall.
Evans fooled by the changeup from Wayne.
This guy's got a funky delivery, as we said. He puts that left arm, his pitching arm, down to his left side to hide it, and all of a sudden he seems to pause midair. Watch it. Very different.
Tapped it foul.
And stops his arm and speeds it up, which looks to me like it'd be very effective for any kind of off-speed, but straight change of that slow curve he just threw.
Was it Tom Brennan, the left-hander, used to pitch for the Indians, who was known as the Gray Flamingo?
Oh, the Flamingo? I thought it was the stork. Flamingo, you're right.
Yeah. He used to perch on one leg like a flamingo. Hit to third, Gaetti. It's almost automatic with him. Backman covers. So that finishes Evans and the Red Sox in the last half of the 8th. Now the Twins have to figure out how to score 4 to get back in it. Last licks time for the Twins. Down 6-2, top of the 9th. Randy Bush, the scheduled leadoff man. But they go to right-handed hitting Al Newman here. Switch hitter Gene Larkin is on deck. Newman is a switch hitter as well. from the right side, of course, against Rob Murphy. As a pinch hitter, he's 2 for 6. As a right-handed batter, he's hitting .292, better than from the left side. 2-0 the count to it. And a strike.
Newman's been in somewhat of a platoon situation at second base with Wally Backman. Backman with a sore left shoulder. Difficulty at times swinging from the right side. Of course, that wasn't a strong side when he was with the Mets either.
When they hear the name Al Newman, a lot of baseball fans go mad, wondering if it's Alfred E. Newman. No. It's Albert D. Newman.
I was wondering that. This isn't the same guy, huh?
But his philosophy, you'll be happy to learn, is what? Me worry? Three and 2, leading off in the ninth.
One thing Murphy usually does is throw strikes. He's walked just 18 in his 30 appearances thus far, and high strikeout to walk ratio. He walks first guy right here. Not a good sign.
He's disgusted with himself, and for good reason, with a 4-run lead. We'll slip this in. The executive producer of NBC Sports is Terry O'Neill, the coordinating producer for NBC's baseball, and the producer of today's game at Fenway, John J. Filippelli. A fan has run out onto the field looking to shake the hand of Dwight Evans. He is now being greeted by a reception committee that is not entirely friendly.
Now, does he get kicked out of the park for this game and ineligible to come in for the night game? Would you give me a ruling, please? You've been very good at your rulings so far today.
Ooh, another conundrum. So John J. Filippelli is the producer. The director today, Andy Rosenberg. Pregame produced by Les Dennis. Features produced by Ricky Diamond. And a ball outside to Gene Larkin.
Gene Larkin has really been, well, perplexing to Tom Kelly and Tony Leva. They thought coming in out of spring training and off his production last year that he might be a 15 to 20 home run guy and a good run producer. And once he's had to play every day and play at first base, so Joe Morgan sends out Gedman to try and settle Murphy down as Lee Smith gets up. Smith's been the kind of guy this year who has struggled, and he seems to give you, maybe 3 good hitters, 1 good inning, and then after that he struggles. And Morgan, I'm sure, with a game tonight, didn't want to get him up at all. The back or the knee stiffen up or the arm.
Looked as if Larkin was taking all the way. 2-1. Three balls and a strike.
Murphy was a workhorse for Cincinnati under Pete Rose a couple of years back, as was Frank Williams, and they're both gone now. Different teams.
And here's a base hit to left. He just grooved one for Larkin.
About the Murphys and Frank Williams, they're pitching like an 80 ball games. Not a whole lot of innings in the National League, but still all that getting up and down in the bullpen, it wears and tears on you. And he's having a start like this now for the Red Sox. And their start is struggling, and you wonder if a guy like this can keep going and have any kind of second half.
Larkin, the first major leaguer to come out of Columbia University since Lou Gehrig in the 1920s, knew that Murphy had to throw a strike on 3-1, sat on the fastball, lined it to left. 2 on, nobody out. Here's what's on tap next week. Mets and Reds. Vin and Tom will call that. We'll be out at Dodger Stadium for the Bucks and the Dodgers. Now Gagne swings on the first pitch. And here's Evans in right to make the catch, and the runners will hold. Do you question that,
yeah,
Tony?
well, it was interesting only because he'd walked Newman and then he got way behind Larkin before the base set. And Gagne's in a hot streak, so I don't question it that much. He's got Laudner behind him. And then Backman, who's not a real power hitter in the 1 slot. So if Gagne, he's a hot hitter, if he gets a pitch, can get it to left field in the wind. Now, where he might have made the mistake is not getting in front of the ball and pulling it in the air. Tailing fastball away, goes the other way. He had a chance to hit on the wall, but he was a little late on it.
I go for that thinking if it's a 3-run game.
Yeah, well.
But it's a 4-run game, and he's got to get on base before the tying run comes to the plate. Dodgers win it we'll check and see. I assume Valenzuela got the win. Twins need one more base runner to bring the tying run to the plate. Valenzuela was the winner today in Cincinnati.
4 or 5 wins in a row now.
Four. 4 in a row for Fernando. The count goes to 2-0. So he walked the pinch hitter Newman, went to 3-1 on Larkin before Gene singled. Gagne swung at the first pitch, fly to right. Now it's 2-0 to Laudner. In there, 2-1.
Now Murphy, I would guess, is looking for a sinker ball down low, maybe out over the plate a little bit. Get the ground ball to the left side, see if a double play can get started. That's what he theoretically would like to do.
Count levels at 2-2. Tim Burtsis was the loser today for Cincinnati, as Valenzuela got the victory for the Dodgers. The 2-2 pitch. Fouled off.
You know, Minnesota, they're free swingers. We've talked about that. Taking a few more base on balls this year, but for a free swinging team, they don't hit into a whole lot of double plays. With the 2 today thrown by Dobson, that's 53 on the year. In the American League, only the Milwaukee Brewers have grounded into fewer double plays. Milwaukee's sitting at 45 going in today. Did Murphy hurt himself, or is there something wrong with the mound that he's going to want to get a little dirt in there? He may be dragging that foot. You can see the mark from the rubber. It goes toward home plate where he's dragging his foot. So if the hole has gotten dug too deeply, we saw Smithson do this earlier this year against Toronto, that 10-0 game that Toronto came back and won. But they had to put a little dirt in, and you drag the foot when the hole gets too deep. You can't get it out of the hole. You end up with a blister on your toe. Well, they're going to rake a little dirt in there and try and tamp it down for Murphy.
That was truly one of the weirdest games in recent Major League history. Here's Smithson cruising along with a 10-0 lead a couple of weeks ago here in the 7th inning. He's wearing a new pair of shoes. They're too tight. He develops a blister on his foot. They take him out of the game, and somehow Toronto comes back. Ernie Witt hits a grand slam, as I recall, and then Junior Felix winds up clouding the game-winning home run. Smithson a no decision. Dennis Lamp the loss.
Well, Joe Morgan, you know, he had a 10-0 lead, as you said. He took Greenwell and Evans out of the lineup.
Smithson's got his all-star ballot.
Punch-in Gaetti, Ruben Sierra, who's not among the leaders but should be.
Ball foul back.
It's nice if we do not get into the controversy this year after all these seasons and about the unfairness of the fans voting for the All-Star, and I will not get into it.
These fans amusing themselves by applauding the efforts of souvenir hunters, such as the guy in the green cap back of the plate. Ah, what's so unfair about it? It's the fans' game, whoever they want to see. Then fill out the roster with the deserving guys as reserves.
Yeah, the players, fans, and credited media should vote. You computerize it, and you got a good mix of people, and the good players have a better chance of getting in instead of stuffing the ballot box.
Well, as long as the fans have some say-so, because that involves them. And the controversy's good.
You wait the vote. You
let them argue about it. They ought to expand the All-Star rosters, though. Open up about 3 more spots per team. Tipped back into Gedman's glove and Laudner's history.
Looked like a little quick slider that Rob Murphy threw to Laudner after a pretty steady diet of fastballs. A couple different kinds of fastballs. He drops the little hook on him. And in a good spot. Down.
So Backman is Minnesota's last hope. This is not a save situation for Murphy. If it concludes here in the ninth, there'll be no save. Dobson will be the winner. He'll be 7-5. Francisco Olivares will lose. He'll be 3-4. Strike one to Backman. A win here will push the Red Sox to within 3 of 500. Drop the Twins back to exactly break even for the season. A ball and a strike.
Tom Kelly does have Carmelo Castillo on the bench from the right side, and he's been a pleasant surprise, been hitting home runs, but I guess Tommy's going to wait to see if this man can get on, and then possibly sometime in the ball game. I don't think he never get another chance.
Well, he's got Gladden and Puckett,
right,
both of whom can clear that wall, waiting next. So if Backman gets on, it becomes interesting. One strike away.
For the first time these fans have gotten into the ball game.
The people cheering loudest will be those listening on transistors in the street, waiting for their seats for the second game. If they finish it here, they can come in the gates. And they do. Well, Murphy closes with a flourish, fanning Laudner and Backman consecutively after he allowed the first two men in the inning to reach. The Red Sox win it 6-2. There's your line score. Steve Horn, as always, was our capable stat man in the booth. And for Tony Kubek, I'm Bob Costas. We leave you with a reminder that tomorrow at 3 Eastern Time, there's a Wimbledon preview, followed by NBC Sports World, featuring Survival of the Fittest and the Arnold Schwarzenegger Classic. That's all tomorrow on NBC. We'll see you next Saturday for the game of the week. For now, so long from Fenway Park.